and welcome to the City of Palm Coast City Council Business Meeting. Today is Tuesday, May the 2nd, 2023. It is now just 6 p.m., and we are in the community wing of Town Center. With that, I would ask everyone to please stand and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. And following the pledge, you are welcome to remain standing for a moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or pause for a moment. I Thank you. I'm going to ask City Council members, just for a moment, please, if I could have a consensus that we change the order of the agenda because of the larger audience that we have. I'd like to do the proclamations first, followed by the graduation of the Citizens Academy, and then we move to public comment. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah. Thank you. So with that, I would ask for the... yes.
Mayor, we have to do the roll call.
Sorry? Roll call, please.
Roll call.
Mayor Alfin.
Present.
Vice Mayor Danko.
Present.
Councilmember Hyder.
Present.
Councilmember Kloufis.
Present.
Councilmember Pontieri.
Present.
All members are present.
Very good. It's my kind of audience tonight. So we have several proclamations to get started with. The first proclamation will be the Public Service Recognition Week. And with that, our councilperson, Teresa Pontieri, is going to deliver the proclamation. And I would like to invite all of City Council to join Ms. Pontieri at the podium while we deliver the Public Works Proclamation.
So good evening, everybody, and I just want to start off by saying that what an awesome pledge tonight. Nice and loud, so many people involved. I really enjoyed that. So this is a very personally special proclamation for me for obvious reasons. I just want to thank everybody who contributes to our community, to our state, to our country in a public servant manner. So everybody from our dispatchers to our educators, to our nurses, to our men and women that are on the street and hitting the beat every single day, to my colleagues that are up here with me, our volunteers, just everybody who gives back to the community, a special thanks to you, and also to your families, because your families serve as well. And I know personally for holidays, birthdays, dinners, soccer games, spelling bees, everything, even, regular things that families enjoy on a nightly basis, those who serve our community often give those things up, and so do their families. So I don't want to start kiling up here, so I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation with honor. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city levels, these unsung heroes do the work that keeps our nation working. And whereas public employees take not only jobs, but oaths. And whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, border patrol officers, embassy employees, healthcare professionals, and others risk their lives each day in service to the people of the United States and around the world. And with that, I'd like to invite the mayor to read the rest.
Thank you. Where did you leave?
Right there.
A little choked up. Laborers, computer technicians, social workers, and countless other occupations. Day in and day out, they provide with dignity and integrity the diverse services of their government demanded by the American people. And whereas without these public servants at every continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the mayor and the city council of the city of Palm Coast, Florida, that the week of April the 30th, 2023 is officially designated as Public Service Recognition Week. And all citizens are encouraged to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels: federal, state, county, and city. Signed this day, myself and the clerk, so the proclamation is in the books now. I thank you all. Is there something that I could ask you to say?
Of course.
I just want to say on behalf of our 608 city employees, thank you for appreciating and recognizing all of our hard work. So we'll try to keep up the good work.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Yep. Come around for a picture.
I'm gonna shift you down just a little bit, please, thank you. Slides. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you all. Our next proclamation this evening will be delivered by Councilperson Hyder, and it will be the Arbor Day proclamation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to present this proclamation. Proclamation. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heat and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, it be proclaimed by the mayor and the city council of the city of Palm Coast, Florida, that May 6, 2023 be officially designated as Arbor Day, and urges all of its citizens to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and to plant trees which will promote the well-being of this future generations. Signed this second day of May 23rd. City of Palm Coast Mayor David Alfin.
So thank you. My name is Carol Minnie. I'm the urban forester for the city of Palm Coast, and I'm honored to be here tonight to accept this proclamation for the 18th year in a row. So I'm very excited about that. And just to give you a couple of stats on Arbor Day, to date, we have given away over 8,000 trees to residents. Now, how many of those have survived? I'm not quite sure, but that sounds like a project for an intern, I think. And then we have also taken flight over 4,000 native butterflies as well. And we've had hundreds and thousands of smiles during Arbor Day. So I'm super excited to be here, and I hope to see all of you on May 6th. It's going to be another full, great event. Free paper shredding. We ask that you bring a canned good or a pet food item for the food pantry. And you will get a ticket at the entry tent and be able to take that back to our tree tent and get a 3-gallon tree. We're going to have a walk-through butterfly tent, as we always do, our butterfly release at 11. And something new this year we're going to do is a nature costume contest for the kids. That's going to be between 10:30 and 10:45. But if any of you adults are very inspired and would like to participate, we will accept you. So hopefully I will see all of you there, and thank you so much for your support, Mayor and City Council, and all of the wonderful staff that work here to put Arbor Day on and bring it to you year after year. Thank you.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
Our next proclamation this evening will be delivered by Councilman Clufus, which will be recognition of tennis.
Team, how are you? Good to see you. Good evening, everybody. And for context, it's National Tennis Month. We're not just recognizing what tennis is, but it's National Tennis Month. So I appreciate everyone being here. And this proclamation kind of goes with the theme of tonight, how we have a lot of sports-related individuals in the audience, and the pointed, I believe, our council's intention to be able to put an emphasis on youth sports in our community. So thank you for everyone being here tonight, and thank you to our tennis-related staff. The proclamation, whereas on May 21st, 1881, the United States Tennis Association, originally known as the United States National Lawn Tennis Association, was founded in New York, New York, to create rules and standards for the emerging game of lawn tennis. And whereas the USTA is the nonprofit national governing body for tennis in the United States and leads the promotion and growth of the sport at every level of play, from beginners to professionals at the U.S. Open, and whereas the latest research by the Physical Activity Council, the PAC, shows that more than 23.6 million Americans played tennis in 2022, an unprecedented 33% increase in participation over 2019, and the highest number of players since the PAC's study began in 2007. And whereas by increasing the accessibility of tennis for citizens of the city of Palm Coast of all ages and all abilities, tennis has contributed to making our community happier and healthier. And whereas the month of May is celebrated as National Tennis Month to encourage players, organizations, facilities, and more to promote local programs and activities at parks and facilities to showcase tennis and spread the word about the sport and its benefits and help players and non-players alike find courts and player opportunities in their community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that May 2023 be officially designated as National Tennis Month, and urge all citizens of Palm Coast to experience the physical, mental, and social benefits of this fun and challenging sport at the incredible tennis courts throughout our great city. Signed this second day of May 2023, Mayor David Alphin. Absolutely. And before I hand it over, I would just like to make note that the City of Palm Coast has tremendous tennis facilities, and we have tremendous tennis future events that are USTA sanctioned. And we also have one of the best players in the entire world who originated from Palm Coast, Riley Opelka, and we want to wish him a get well soon. He's gone through surgery, but last season he was in the top 20 players in the entire world. He's our 140-mile-an-hour serving Palm Coast graduate here. So please, a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is George Henry, and on behalf of the Recreation Department and the Palm Coast Tennis Center, I'd accept this proclamation, and I'd like to give thanks to the mayor, council, and the public for giving us support. For the National Tennis Month in Palm Coast, we will be providing 2 Saturdays of free lessons for kids and adults on May 20th from 12 to 2, and on May 27th from 12 to 2. So please come on out. If you can play, if you've never played before, you're welcome. If you're a pro, you're also welcome to come out. Thank you.
Congratulations, everybody. I promise to stay on script except for the following. I am absolutely inspired to look at the audience at our City Council business meeting this evening, because we'll get to our graduates of our Citizens Academy in a moment, but to also see a younger group here representing the next generation, which I see over across, I mean, for me, that's inspiring. You're getting a chance to see what we are and what we can become. So I appreciate everyone who has come to visit with us this evening. We have 2 more proclamations. The first one is our National Preservation Month. Whereas nearly 51 years ago, the White House proclaimed by the nation that as a pace of change to accelerate around us, Americans more than ever need a lively awareness of their roots and origins in order to base a sense of identity in the present direction, in the future. And whereas the month of May has since been designated across America as National Preservation Month, celebrating the nation's heritage through historical relics and places. Whereas historic individuals, objects, and places are well worth preserving because safeguarding their rich and lively histories perpetuates the traditions that every community cherishes. And whereas our esteemed Palm Coast Historical Society has formed 23 years ago to document, collect, preserve, and disseminate decades of material relating to the history of the city of Palm Coast and its residents. And whereas their resources, archives, exhibits, and memories supply an enduring connection from our inventive past to our bright future. And whereas their resources, archives, exhibits, and memories supply an enduring connection from our inventive past to our bright future, and whereas Palm Coast Historical Society continues to raise our awareness of the significance of preserving past narratives as verification for residents to treasure for generations. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the mayor and the city council of the city of Palm Coast, Florida, that May 2023 be officially designated National Preservation Month, and encourage residents to be energized by our city's history that stitches together the stories of all who have tied our community together with the threads of hope and promise. Signed by the mayor and the clerk on this day. The proclamation is decreed. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Alfin. My name is Kathy Riker-Dolavsky, and I'm the president of the Palm Coast Historical Society, and I'm here with a number of volunteers and board members who also are involved in historic preservation. And in order to raise awareness, I don't want to leave without mentioning that we do have a website. It's palmcoasthistory.org, and you can read about our upcoming events and all kinds of articles about our history. This year, the National Trust for Preservation has chosen the theme, People Saving Places, in recognition of the countless volunteers who pour their time, energy, and resources into protecting places they care about, often without recognition. The Trust describes this celebration as a national high five to everyone doing this great work and inspiring others to do the same. In 1978, a joint congressional resolution was introduced to designate National Preservation Week in May of that year. President Richard Nixon later signed it into law. Today's proclamation by the Palm Coast City Council mirrors much of the same language of the first presidential proclamation. Nearly 30 years ago, one of America's leading architecture critics, Ada Louise Huxtable, noted in her book, The Unreal America, our nation's preference for what she called invented environments. This is found in the form of theme parks and shopping malls. Since Florida has the highest concentration of theme parks in the world, one has to wonder if we have not been influenced by these unreal places where fantasy is preferred and authenticity is not admired or desired. Let's face it, preservation isn't easy. It isn't predictable. Having owned and renovated vintage structures in the Northeast, I can attest to the fact that projects never run quite as smoothly as they do on an episode of This Old House. When I worked as a flight attendant with Delta Airlines, I happened to have Norm Abrams, one of the hosts of that show, on a flight out of Boston. I let him know that perhaps the show's producers should make the program just a bit more realistic. Today, HGTV and other channels offer an endless variety of renovation-themed shows. Plotlines these days tend to include a number of unanticipated snags, followed by a few options or compromises, then finally a solution. Perhaps word got back to the writers that reality television should include more reality. A little over a week ago, we celebrated the golden anniversary of the Palm Coast Fire Department, established in 1973. The first residence of Palm Coast, which was built by International Telephone and Telegraph, had just arrived in Florida's largest planned community the year before. Within 6 months of their arrival, they formed the Palm Coast Civic Association. From that organization emerged the Palm Coast Volunteer Fire Department. By 1975, ITT donated land on the corner of Palm Coast Parkway and Clubhouse Drive for an emergency services building. It opened in 1977 and eventually became Fire Station 22. It's still in operation today, but is scheduled to close in the coming months. Palm Coast's original station no longer serves the needs of the department. Functional obsolescence threatens many historic structures. Creativity and cooperation is what saves them. We've all seen examples. Factories become hotels, banks become restaurants, churches become theaters, and when people are inspired, fire stations can become museums and visitor centers. When people have a lively awareness of their roots, when they gain an appreciation of the past, they want to preserve it for the future, even in a community as young as Palm Coast. To paraphrase another popular renovation program, when it comes to protecting our heritage and embracing our uniqueness, we need to ask, are we going to love it, or are we going to lose it? We want to be people saving places. Will you join us? Let's give a local high five to everyone doing this great work. So do we, okay, good. Okay, let's hold the proclamation.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Come on, everybody, get close.
Oh, you want us to be back there?
Yes,
Okay.
if you would.
All right, okay.
Okay.
Okay. There we go, okay.
Oh, yeah. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
I think Patsy might have your other proclamation.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Our final proclamation for this evening is, I think, very appropriate for the audience that we have, so I saved it for our last one before we move forward with graduation and then, of course, public comment. Come on up. The proclamation is National Water Safety Month. I can't think of something that is more important for any and all of us to take away from this evening. So I'll go ahead with the proclamation. Whereas the City of Palm Coast recognizes the vital role that swimming and aquatics-related activities in providing good physical and mental health and enhancing the quality of life for all people, and whereas it is important to understand the essential role that education regarding water safety plays in preventing drowning and recreational water-related injuries. And whereas the City of Palm Coast offers swim lessons, community outreach programs, private pool safety, public service announcements, and the Pool Safety Day event to educate the public and spread the practice of water safety. And whereas the City of Palm Coast Parks and Recreation Department maintains first aid, CPR, AED certifications for all staff, as well as additional lifeguarding certifications for its aquatics employees. And whereas we recognize the vital importance of communicating water safety rules and programs to families and individuals of all ages, whether owners of private pools, users of public swimming facilities, or visitors to beaches. Now therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and the city council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that May 2023 be officially designated as National Water Safety Month, signed by Mayor of Palm Coast, myself, and our clerk. Be it proclaimed. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Ali Rock-Yanachko. I'm the supervisor of the Aquatic Center. We would like to thank the mayor and city council. I would also like to welcome you to the Palm Coast Aquatic Center on May 27th for Pool Safety Day. It'll be from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We offer swim lessons from ages 6 months and older, and thank you so much.
Can a couple of you come over here? Please, thank you. I don't want to continue with the, it's like really off now. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you.
We will next move to the folks that are about to graduate from our Citizens Academy. So I won't slow the process down, but I do need to share this with everybody. So the folks that are sitting in these chairs with those very special shirts are exactly sitting where I sat a little better than 10 years ago when I attended the Citizens Academy, and I earned my pin. This is a rather old-fashioned one, so I can only warn you all, look what can happen to you. So be wary and be careful, but I'm so proud that all of you, there I believe are 33 of you, and I know what class is this, how many? 53. This is the 53rd Citizens Academy class. So in response to your history, this is really magnificent. So Brittany, if you take us through, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. So good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Brittany Kershaw, your Director of Communications and Marketing. And I'm thrilled to be standing here tonight as we celebrate the graduation of our 53rd session of the Palm Coast Citizens Academy. This program is near and dear to my heart, and I've had a great time hosting these amazing individuals over the past 7 weeks as they journey through the inner workings of our city government. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank every one of you on the City Council for participating in this, along with our city manager, our directors, and a lot of city staff who took time to make this program successful. I think we all know firsthand the importance of being an active and informed member of our community, and that's exactly what these participants of the Citizens Academy have been doing over the past couple months. They have been learning about our city's history, infrastructure, government, and public safety services, amongst many other things. They've been engaging with our local leaders, asking critical questions, and most importantly, they've been building relationships with each other and with the community. As we celebrate their graduation tonight, I'm so excited for all that they've accomplished, and I know they will go on to be great ambassadors for our city, and I can't wait to see the positive impact they will make in Palm Coast. And as the mayor said, who knows what's in your future. So, to the graduates of the 53rd session, the Palm Coast Citizens Academy, congratulations on your achievement. You're now part of a legacy of engaged citizens, and I'm confident that you will continue to contribute to the betterment of our community. And when you hear your name, please come up and receive your... Okay, Nabil and Bushra. Oh, am I handing them? Okay, I'm handing them to you. There you go. Okay, congrats. Jeanette, yeah, you can go sit down, and then I'll have you come back up. So if you want to stay up, you can. Daniel? I don't think Jeffrey's here. Jean and hubby, John. You're welcome. Wilda? John? No. Monica? Sarah? Cliff? You're welcome. Bill? Charles or Chuck? Rusty? Congratulations. Mary? And David? Congrats. You're welcome. You're welcome. Patty? And Tony. It only took me half the session to learn their real names. You're welcome. Joni? And Stephanie? And Logan. You're welcome. Deborah? Vasil? Patricia? You're welcome. And Robert? You're welcome. And Tom? Brenda's not here, but we will give it to her. Hubby. John. I'll give you both a hug. You're welcome. Doris. And Donna. You're welcome. Dalva's not here. And Pamela? Don't think she came in either. Okay, that's a wrap. I am going to ask you to come back up, though, because we do need a giant group picture.
No, you're fine. It's a short person hazard.
I'm glad that Brittany got the graduation.
Yeah, we're going to have to squeeze. I can get y'all. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more.
Everybody say Citizens Academy.
Ready? Yeah.
I might have to get you to send me those.
Okay.
I don't think my camera's wide enough.
I can send them.
Brittany, get in here. Come on.
I might end up getting you to send me that anyways.
Okay, everyone, we're going to put some organization to this meeting because we have some very young residents, which I'm sure are keenly interested in what we're going to talk about next. So while you all are organizing your seats or finding a place to stand, I'm going to open up the public comment portion of our agenda. And let me start it this way while you're organizing. In order for city staff to be able to respond to your questions or concerns, please fill out a comment card with your contact information. The comment cards can be found on the table near the agendas or available from the Communications Marketing Director, who is seated now in the back. Anyone wishing to speak may approach the podium provide their name, and may speak for up to 3 minutes. Please direct all comments to the mayor. Be concise and to the point. Avoid delaying or interrupting the proceedings, and do not make any irrelevant, impertinent, or slanderous comments. Any person who becomes disorderly may be barred from making any additional comments. So with that, I would invite folks to come forward to make their public comment at this time. So if you would, please, sir.
All right. Thank you, everybody behind me, for coming. Thank you, council, for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Jared Maxwell. I go by Coach Jay. I am president and owner of Mad Dogs Flag Football at Palm Coast. I've been a citizen here for 20 years. I've coached high school football for 1 year. I was director of PAL, and basically I have given my life to our youth here in this town, along with many coaches behind me. What brings us here tonight is 13 years that I've been coaching in this city. Fields have always been an issue. That's no secret tonight. Our main issue is lighted fields, fields that drain properly, adequate parking. The issue that we have is we have an insane amount of parents that park on Rimfire, next to Rimfire Elementary School. People are doing 40, 50 miles an hour down these roads, and we have families with little kids that are crossing the street, trying to just go play football and have a safe day. This is a fight that I've been in for 13 years now, and we've always been told that there is a 5 to 10 year plan. There was a 5 to 10 year plan 13 years ago. Today, we're a 5 to 10 year plan. So I am asking council to eventually here, let's all sit down together and let's figure this out. Let's put these kids first, because they are entitled to this. They deserve this. They didn't ask to be here, so it's on us to give them a safe field to play on. On top of that, I want to give a big shout out to our Parks and Rec department, starting with James Hurst, Dennis Redican, Joe Trinkle, Joe Higgs, Mark Ramirez. These guys work tirelessly to make sure that our fields are ready for us on game days. Our practice fields are set. We have trash. The fields are clean. This is not a Parks and Rec issue. This is not a James Hurst and Dennis's issue with these fields. This is an issue that was here way before they ever started here. And I want to make that perfectly clear. These guys are awesome and they're doing a great job for us. And we are looking forward to sit down with everybody here with council so we can come up with a strategic plan moving forward that suits the needs of all of our kids. Thank you guys for hearing me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment. Please, the next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is John Bukowski. I live in 16 Cottage Gate Court, Palm Coast, and been a resident here for just about 3 years now. I'm coming up for the second time in front of council to ask a question about Airbnbs, VRBOs. Is an Airbnb, VRBO a business? That's a question that's been posed not just in Palm Coast, in Florida, but all over the world. There's rules and regulations in Paris, Amsterdam, New York City, Los Angeles, Tampa, other places to deal with this issue. I'll show you a picture of a street in North Carolina, in Asheville, where every house on that street is an Airbnb. I'll also show you a quick picture of Palm Coast, where we have multiple of these in the city. In my neighborhood alone, there are many of these in the city. When I look at the Flagler County codes from 2015, there's verbiage in here about how to address short-term vacation rentals. This was removed in the 2016 version of this as well. If you go to the websites for awning, Airbnb, VRBO, it still says that Palm Coast is an excellent place for you to put up an Airbnb because the city has absolutely no rules or regulations on Airbnb. So I do believe that as we see these things grow in our community, times have changed. This is something that needs to be addressed. I respectfully say that there are 3 main characteristics of concern that I think our city is at stake of losing. One of them is a sense of community. In the neighborhood where I've lived for the last 3 years, I've never felt more welcome. All of the neighbors know one another. We see one another. We say hi. Most of us have keys or codes to each other's houses. If there's a problem or an issue, we help each other out. We break down that sense of community if we lose that by having these types of properties in the middle of us. A quality of life. We're all very respectful to one another because we have to live next door to one another. So if someone needs to put up a fence, someone has a barking dog, someone has an issue, we talk to one another first before we bother with code enforcement or the police. We make sure that we work things out as neighbors. That's the second thing we lose with this type of thing. Protection of investment as well. Our homes, for most of us, single largest investment we make. We have to make sure that we protect that investment. I'm asking you, as members of the City Council, you're entrusted with every person in this community and the value, and thank you. I ask that you please take action on this issue and come up with some type of rules with dealing with these properties. Is it a business or is it not a business? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right. Hold on. Mr. Stone, with your permission, I'm going to ask Mr. Maxwell, do you have additional speakers? If, Mr. Stone, if you would allow, because there's young kids, if we could get their speakers through, and then, thank you.
How you doing? Good evening. My name is Matthew Struhar, and I'm the Vice President of the Mad Dogs Flag Football of Palm Coast. I'm here this evening, along with everyone here, to express our deepest concerns with the field conditions and lack of field maintenance with the parks of Palm Coast. Born and raised in Palm Coast, I'm proud to call myself a Flagler County native, and even more proud to raise my family alongside my wife Paige and our two sons, Asher and Jax, with our third child on the way. Coaching my son's flag football team for many seasons, and my son being a member of the Flagler Titans, it has come to the point where enough is enough. The fields have progressively gotten worse and worse over the years, to a point where it has become a hazard to our kids. In regards to Ralph Carter, over the years, I have witnessed countless injuries to all our children, all ages, from knees, ankles, hips, etc. I can speak to this firsthand. On January 25th, it was a normal practice for our 12U Jags, and at the end of the practice, Coach went down. Jumping up to catch the ball, I came down in one of the infamous Ralph Carter potholes and destroyed my ankle. 2 ligaments torn and a deep ankle sprain. I was out of commission for 6 weeks. 3.5 months later, my ankle will never be the same. The only silver lining of this experience was that it happened to me and not one of our children. Lights are another big issue with our parks within our city. Having one park available with lights, which would be Ralph Carter for practices, funnels all teams to one park for practices. Space becomes a serious problem. A couple numbers I would like to share with everyone tonight. There are roughly 1,200 people involved with the season of Mad Dogs. That is roughly 1.2% of Palm Coast population that is involved with Mad Dogs, and we have 3 seasons per year. Mad Dogs Flag Football offers a year-round sport to keep kids healthy by continually staying active. Obviously, me being on the board with Mad Dogs, I have some of these statistics on hand, but I'm not even scratching the surface when it comes to all sports throughout, including soccer, tackle football, lacrosse, etc. In conclusion, I may be speaking for our organization of Mad Dogs Flag Football, but this is in regards to all youth sports in our city. These kids are our future, and it is time to start protecting our children, and in my case, coaches as well. It's time to have our youth sports fields match the rest of our beautiful city and give our children, parents, coaches, and everyone else involved a proud athletic program that we can call home. Thank you.
I thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good.
Let's go Dolphins.
All right, we got that. How you guys doing, council? Thanks for having us here tonight, really appreciate that, letting us be heard. It's about the stinkiest this room's ever been, so we really are proud to be here. My name is William Roberts, and 16 years ago, my wife and I were traveling through from our home in Jacksonville and fell in love with Palm Coast. 9 years ago, I decided to start coaching 2 of my boys, and have been involved with several different sports ever since. That being said, I've witnessed firsthand what several people before me and several coaches have explained. We have discovered hills in this part of Florida, and it's called Ralph Carter Park. That being said, you know, there are numerous accounts from everyone in this room that we can talk about, but one of them comes to heart the most, and that is a child who grew up in a less than average situation, and his way out of that situation, he was on my team last year, was sports. And this kid probably would have played for a D1 university. And out there one day at practice, he went up for a pass, came down, broke his ankle in 2 places, has been through 2 surgeries, and he still, a year and a half later, or a year and 3 months later, cannot walk on that foot. His college career is over. His hopes and dreams. I sat there with this kid crying to me, telling Coach, why? Why did this happen? Don't have an answer for him. But that really hits home because I've had in 1 year 4 kids on my teams that have been affected with knee or ankle injuries. This young man right here has a knee brace on just from 2 weeks ago, stepping in a hole and rolling that knee and having a very rare injury. That being said, all we're asking for is to invest in the community. As I walked in, I noticed the beautiful pictures on the wall of kids playing soccer. We want that. We want this. This is not the Villages. This is an area where we have youth and families coming here. It's not 55 and up, as contrary to popular belief. We want the families here, and we need to encourage that. You know, one of the stats I found very, very interesting is 23 million people play tennis, and we designated National Tennis Month in the month of May. I checked real quick. 7.9 million kids from the ages of 13 to 17 annually play tackle football. Flag football is the largest growing sport in the country. 6.89 million kids in 2020 played flag football. That's 14 million right there. We don't have facilities to handle the 1,000 that we have. And together with, I know the county as well, and I know that's separate from the city, but we're not having better success with their fields. So I hope that our county and our city can work together. I hope that we can work with the council, so we're not just heard tonight, but we're heard for the future. You know, my kids will probably be grown and out and at FPC and the amazing high school facilities we have, but for our next generation coming up, we want fields that make our city proud. Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lauren Ramirez, and I am a Mad Dog's mother of 4 here. Thank you for having us here. Today, we are here to call attention to the current state of the football fields that all of these children use. As you're aware, these parks are used for various sports, including flag football, which provide hundreds of young children the opportunity to learn valuable skills and stay engaged in extracurricular activities. As families that use these fields, we take our part to ensure we clean the fields after we're done, but we need the city's assistance to ensure that these fields are properly maintained and kept safe for our children. Unfortunately, the current state of these fields is a cause for concern. This situation has been a source of frustration for families who participate in these sports and rely on these fields to keep their children and our children engaged and active. It is essential that these fields are taken care of and that the funds are properly allocated to ensure their upkeep. As you may know, participation in sports has a very positive impact on children's academic, physical, social development. Studies have shown that children who are involved in sports do better in school, are less likely to engage in risky behaviors, and are more likely to develop positive social skills. Therefore, it is crucial that we provide our children with the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities and ensure that they have access to safe and well-maintained fields. I'm here to request that the City of Palm Coast creates a case on the football park fields and any fields that our children are using currently and allocate the necessary funds to ensure their proper maintenance. As families, we will continue to do our part to ensure that the fields are clean after every use. However, we need the city, we need your assistance to ensure that they are safe and prepared for our children to use. I thank you for your time and consideration and look forward to working with you in making our field safe for these kids. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Mayor, councilmen and women, appreciate your time today. My name is Donnie. I am here on behalf of the Flagler Titans, commissioner for the league, board member with Mad Dogs. I was going over a lot of things that I was debating whether I wanted to say tonight, but Councilman Nick said something that kind of stuck with me. When speaking about tennis, he used the word tremendous facilities, and I couldn't help but just key on that while I was sitting down there. The young lady that was talking about the museums also said the young city we have. So as we've gone over with the drainage, the ditches, not able to accommodate our parents that are bringing their children to the game, having to walk across fast roads with their other young children just to watch their kids play. Grandparents can't find places to park, not enough parking for them, having to walk miles to watch their grandchildren play. I just wonder when, Councilman Nick, are we going to be able to look at our youth and say, we have tremendous facilities for them also. We have tremendous football fields for them also. And that's all I have for you guys tonight. Thank you.
I thank you for your comments.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dale Arnaud. I am the president of Winter Circle Youth Sports, where we offer local and travel sports, basketball, volleyball, track and field, and we also do flag football. So this is where the fields come into play. Honestly, I'm exhausted. I'm an exhausted organization owner, parent, and coach. As an owner, we make these promises to these parents. They sign the kids up, and due to the fields having issues or the indoor facilities that we're not able to get into, we're not able to fulfill our commitment. It makes us look bad. It makes the city look bad. As a coach, I'm also exhausted because we go to these other cities where they have facilities. They have the fields, turf fields. And we look at that and we think about what we have, and it's an issue. As a parent, I feel as though I'm doing my kids a disservice by living in a city that at times feels like they're not fully committed to investing in the kids. I don't want to pull my kids. I don't want to pull my family from here. I am here to help. I'm here to invest. I invest into these kids, and we're asking the city to do the same. That's all I have.
Thank you for your comment.
How you doing? I appreciate the opportunity here. My name is Matt Forrest. I'm a physical education teacher and head football coach at Matanzas High School. I came here straight from practice. I thought about, getting some notes together and kind of doing all that stuff on top of whatever, we go through as coaches. But really, I just kind of came here because I once was a young kid with a dream. And those things start, and I think just the value that you see, we all had that moment where youth sports or whatever you chose to do as a kid really impacted your overall decision to who you wanted to be and kind of defined who you were. And those aha moments, we don't know when they're going to happen, right? And I just know from a facility standpoint that if you're not getting that first class experience, I just don't think that we want to be the reason or, that we could do more when we have the opportunity to be somebody that can enable that dream to happen. And there's these kids are going to go through things, and this could be the only positive influence on their life, right? And when you have that opportunity to be that positive influence and take that initiative, we've all got to come together and do it. Because everybody in here can relay, and they can come to that point and they can go, hey, that was the moment, right? That was the moment where I did something, or here's where I was when I had that aha moment and when I clicked and I said, I want to be this. I want to work in politics. I want to help people. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a football player. I want to do all these things, and I want to make something in my life, and I want to be that, right? And we have the opportunity to work together as all individuals to help these kids out, help them fulfill their dreams, or at least give them the platform, the facility, and the opportunity to do those things. And I think we can all come together and get that done as one group. Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you all for having me. My name is Daniel Fish. I'm the head football coach at Flagler Palm Coast, also a physical education teacher. I appreciate all our guys coming up and talking about everything that our youth needs in order to be successful. They kind of touched on all the major issues there. I just kind of want to talk about my experience with youth football. So I was adopted as a young man and came from a really rough situation. And you know, when I got into my situation, my parents couldn't really connect with me, and the way they got me to buy in to becoming a better person was getting me involved with youth sports. And the connections I made there with my teammates, with my coaches, it lasted a lifetime. I honestly wouldn't be in the situation that I'm in today if I didn't have those amazing experiences as a young man. So, you know, that was 15, 20 years ago when that happened, and I lived up in Gwinnett County, and we had awesome facilities. We had more than 10 practice fields for all of our youth programs that were lighted. The fields were taken care of. We didn't have to worry about, you know, potholes or getting injured on those fields. And we also were able to play night games, which were exciting. And, you know, I just want to do whatever I can to advocate for our youth and make sure they have everything they need possibly to have the same type of experience that I had, because it leads to amazing avenues later on in life. So that's all I really got. I really appreciate you letting me come up and speak, and I appreciate how invested everyone is in the youth. It's pivotal for them, and we want to continue that experience when they get to high school. We don't want them to be turned away from that experience because they didn't have a great one as a young man. So thank you all for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for your comment.
I don't know if I need this mic, but I'll try. Hi, my name is Shanna Gutierrez. I'm a mother of 6, and I'm loud and proud. I moved to Palm Coast back in 2010. All my children are very athletic. We are involved at 3 different organizations and also at FPC. This is not a retired community anymore. We are a growing and overpopulated family community. We keep the families that have their children involved in sports, and the only ones that see, sorry, I'm all over, okay. We have a problem getting places for our youth to practice, or even the games getting lighting. If the time and effort is not focused on our youths, there's going to be more injuries due to not being cared for. Oh, and I forgot to mention also, there's no pediatric hospital, so that means more time, more money spent on parents traveling to different, either south or north. I could speak for myself. I spend endless hours of having my children involved in sports. How in the world did these fields get in these conditions? How did we get this far without more fields for our youth? Instead, we have to rent out our public schools for indoor and outdoor sports. We have parents and coaches, now we need the space. I have 6 wonderful children that have been nothing but good in serving our city, and still will continue, but something needs to be done. It's not an easy way to just close the door with nothing else for these young youths to do. Instead, travel 15 miles north or 15 miles south. There's literally nothing recreation for our children and our family to do in this city. Our kids need better. They are our future. Student athletes give our city a name. Youth sports give the opportunity to make a difference in our kids' lives. Thank you.
Comments?
maybe I should keep this on, keep from blinding everybody behind me here. But my name is Jason Wakeler. I've lived in Palm Coast since 2005. I've got 3 boys that I've raised here in the community. Coached with Jay since, 20 years ago? In the first flag football league that was here. Mosquito Sports, again, a field that didn't have any lights, low options, again, overcrowded and so forth. I volunteer about 40 hours a week to youth sports between the high school, Titans, flag football during certain seasons and so forth. So I think it comes down to community and legacy. I think there's a lot of potential misappropriations of funds that are going towards projects here that, potentially are a little overvalued. $3 million for a 1A. We got public rec facilities supposedly earmarked for 2025. We got things like pickleball courts and stuff there. That's great. I'm all for pickleball. But it's time to really start planning. This 5 to 10 year plan needs to happen now, right? Tonight. And I ask you guys to think about the community that showed up, right? What kind of community do we want to have 10, 15, 20 years from now when these kids are raising their families here? Make the commitment, right, to ensure the legacy continues. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you all. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Mayor, can we just address these
Hold
folks
on.
before they walk away?
Jay, come back to the podium for a minute, please.
Just one thought. One of the...
Wait. Hold on.
Just one quick thought.
Councilman Danko, please.
One of the things that we've been discussing this year in our strategic action plan is to prioritize the items in our park and recreations. And I just want to let you folks know, seeing you folks here tonight, I can think of no better priority than what you guys are doing. And I want to thank you for
Hey, Mr. Danko, we're going to hold you to that now.
Okay. All right, Jay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right,
you can.
We'll move. Come here. We'll move to the next speaker. Thank you, folks. As we're waiting for the room to clear for just a minute, so to my fellow city council members, this is a remarkable moment when you can fill the room with a enthusiastic and energetic group that displays such decorum and such positive energy. I can't think of a better way to define how governance should work. I mean, this is truly remarkable that our system of government can work this well. So I'm very pleased. Thank you all for your patience and for your participation. Really very, very nice. Okay, with that, sir, we would continue with public participation at your pleasure.
Thank you very much. That's a very difficult act to follow there. And I agree with everything they said. My name is Ron Shrine. I'm a resident of the W section, and I've been a resident here for 4 years. And I'm here to comment on the question of short-term rentals. There was a gentleman earlier that spoke about the need for regulation. I don't disagree with him that there's never anything wrong with the town paying close attention to things like that. I have an Airbnb in the F section. But the problem I have is that there's a lot of people in town who think that, that we are hotels and we should be regulated like hotels. There's a house across the street from me in a W section that's empty. If I decided to buy it and rent it to a family that needed a place to live, I wouldn't need to be a business to do that. I just do that. But as it happens, I bought a house that I rent to people who want to come here on vacation. People who want to go to Disney or to the Kennedy Space Center or want to just go to the beach. To me, it's the same thing. I don't know why short-term versus long-term makes a difference, whether one's a business and one's not. We do a lot of good things for the town. Obviously, you guys make money off of short-term rentals from the taxes and fees that we pay. If people have a problem, they can contact Airbnb, VRBO directly, give them the address of the house where there's a problem, and those people can lose their listing at Airbnb. You know, I don't think they need to keep calling code enforcement or calling the sheriff unless it's really bad. And I don't think that they have a right to say that we don't have a right to own a vacation rental home and let people come and stay in it. You know, it seems to me that it's, I don't consider it a business, I just consider it a fun thing to do. And so I don't have a problem if you wanted to increase the overview on short-term rentals to make sure that bad actors get taken care of more easily. But I don't think some of the things that people are asking for of regulating us out of business and telling us we can't be in neighborhoods because we're a hotel, I don't think that's correct at all. So whatever you do, if you do respond to the requests for more regulations, I just hope that it's done in the mood to keep this piece of business going. It's good for the city. It's good for the citizens who own these houses. And it's good for all the people who come here and get to enjoy Palm Coast. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mayor. Vincent Ligori, Palm Coast, and I think you'll see another packed house very shortly when you start talking franchise fees. Once again, the Palm Coast City Council is considering installing franchise fees on electric and public service bills for road resurfacing. At the June 5th, 2012 City Council meeting, and I was there, the citizens of Palm Coast vehemently rejected the franchise fee approach, which was eventually abandoned by the council. Usage is a variable cost. Both electric and water current billings reflect your individual usage and charges. You pay for what you use. The franchise fee is not fair. Why? It collects more dollars from high-end users and excludes entities and charges that should be charged, vacant lots, apartments, etc. Roads are important and should be diligently maintained. Variable franchise fees have serious implications: inability to pay, loss of services, and deferring other bills for medications, etc. The city should retain bill integrity and concentrate on other funding methods for free surfacing. Per Florida Power and Light, the current average electric bill is approximately $140 a month. 3% franchise fee would equal $50 per year, 6%, $100 per year. In my opinion, the best funding approach would be a capital fee, which would be included on the annual property tax bill as a defined non-ad valorem item. This set fee would be charged to any and all homes, apartments, vacant lots, businesses, and exempt units within city limits. Based on approximately 57,000 units currently in the city, that would generate at 3% $50 per year, 2.9 annually, and $100 per year, 5.7 million annually. Of course, other legal and doable revenue options should be used, gas and sales tax impact fees. The annual capital cost should decrease from year to year as new units are added. I believe citizens will rally to the annual capital fee and fight like hell against a franchise fee. My thanks to Michelle Udall of the Flagler County Properties Appraiser's Office for the development of the units figure. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, next speaker, please. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Stone. Thank you for your patience.
First Stone, Cimarron Drive. I've been in touch with Ormond Beach, and I can tell you a director from your organization called a director of engineering, Mrs. Then your traffic guy says, you didn't give us the right information. The number's disconnected and his email's disconnected. What a joke. So I give him all the information again. I emailed him today, was there any discussions? And he said yes, and I said, can you reveal it? No answer. I know what Ormond Beach is going to tell you. They're extremely happy. They're expanding throughout the city, and they're actually going to start putting it on state streets. Another thing, Cimarron continues to be a mess. When Spectrum showed up at my house and filmed it, the photographer was run off almost off the street. And whoever spoke for the city, and this is a quote, it's 33.1 miles per hour. Whatever they're smoking, I like to have a piece of it. Because you'll get 90 people that live on Cimarron will argue that day and night, and you all got an email. Poor deer run over. The driver didn't even have the guts to call somebody to clean it up. The vultures was tearing the deer apart. So how do I get an answer of what Ormond told Palm Coast? And I know what they're going to tell them. They're extremely happy. They're going full blast. Not only the Ormond Beach, Daytona, Volusia County, and several other states throughout the United States. And I got to tell you guys, you're losing votes. Nobody is coming to these meetings anymore. 2 people the last time, 5 people the last. People are disgusted. Get on next door. And one city council person already did it. People are disgusted with what's going on in this city. None of you will get reelected at this point. And one officer actually said, I'll go to another city. No big deal. Have a good day.
Thank you for your comment. Is there a next speaker, please? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Eric Olson. I am the chairman of the Political Action Committee, Palm Coast Chicken Alliance. So we're back. And I am just here to see where we are on the discussion. I know that there was Councilman Pontier that wanted to table the discussion for a workshop. And so I was just kind of seeing where we are on that. Our organization has representatives from the University of Florida, the USDA, and the FDA, who have all reached out wanting to help us create new policies which protect the citizens and also grant us what we want. So, yeah, just kind of looking for answers on that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker that would like to address City Council at this time? Please come forward. Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name's Mike Solura. I live in the C-section. I want to talk a little bit about the Airbnbs. I know it's a sore subject, but I did some research. Some of them are under corporations, so that tells me that they're running a business and it's not residential. I moved here 7 years ago. I wanted to rent a home next door to my brother's house in the C-section, and I was told by the realtor that they didn't allow short-term rentals. It had to be 6 months or more, I think it was. And so I couldn't rent that, so I ended up doing something else. But then all of a sudden they decided, I guess, they could get more tax money or bed tax or whatever it is that they get, so they've allowed the Airbnbs. Now, we had one open up on our street, house sold, and the person had a big boat. They put it behind the house, and they were renting the house and the boat at the same time. And I guess somebody must have called code enforcement and put a stop to that because they're concerned about, I guess, the waste going in the canal and stuff. So that stopped that. But in Wellington, there was an Airbnb, a 2-year-old girl lost her life because the people before them had fentanyl in the house and the child got into it somehow. They put her to lay down for her nap. She never woke up. They're suing the Airbnb company. They're suing the people that were before them. And they're also suing the homeowner. And I don't know if they're going to go any farther than that, the city or county, I don't know. But that's kind of my concern. They're popping up everywhere. I don't have a problem. My next door neighbor's a renter, but he's a long-term renter. And he takes care of the place and everything's fine. But it's just these short terms. There's not really enough parking a lot of times. And sometimes they're used as a party house, a bachelor party or whatever. You don't know who's coming and going. So that's my concern about it. And I think from next door neighbor, a lot of people are also concerned about it. And I don't have a problem if someone buys a property for rental, rent it for a year or 6 months so you have somebody there all the time. My other concern is a little bit about the taxes. My street alone, there's been 6 houses sold, and they've probably quadrupled the property tax on those houses, plus the 3% assessment that they can get every year. So I just, I think our taxes should be going lower instead of going up every year with that kind of money coming in. I feel like, are we subsidizing the developers because all these new schools are going to have to be built and all this? I just think that with all this money coming in and them not having to do anything as far as, building, people already existing. So they're not having to do anything to the infrastructure. The infrastructure's there. Why are our taxes not getting lower with all this extra money coming in? And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, next speaker, please.
Hello, Jonathan from Palm Coast. The Bible says in 1 Timothy to pray for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. I pray for my leaders and for you each specifically, that you would walk in the fear of the Lord and that you would do what is right in the eyes of the Lord. I also pray that you would listen to the people that you are elected to represent. This is my first in-person meeting, but I've been watching Palm Coast meetings online, and I closely follow local news and speak with others in Palm Coast. Each meeting, I see people come and voice their concerns for 3 minutes, and you thank them, and then nothing seems to change, and you do whatever you want. Some examples of this are your 151% salary increases, the 15% tax increase, the inaction regarding traffic issues, the refusal to have an invocation of prayer before meetings, and even small things like switching trash companies. But I think the biggest example has to do with growth. I had these bumper stickers made up that say, "Keep Palm Coast, Palm Coast." I believe this sums up what the majority of our constituents want. I believe Palm Coast is a hidden gem, and I want to keep it that way. When I heard Mayor Alfin's State of Palm Coast boldly titled Western Frontier Expansion, and hear him proclaim that there is no limit to what we can do in our city, I cringed. Flagler County is now the 3rd fastest growing county in Florida. I personally think that there should be limits in Palm Coast. I don't want to see Palm Coast become Ormond Beach or Daytona Beach. Instead of westward expansion, I wish it was called planned growth or managed growth or sustainable growth or something other than what seems to be a slash and burn approach to Palm Coast. The City Council pillars of priorities include smart growth and sustainable environment and infrastructure. However, driving around Palm Coast with all the building and developments going up, the traffic, the rough roads, and failing infrastructure, you wouldn't think that was part of the plan. I want to remind you of your constituents. The majority of your residents are retired and on fixed income. You need to better manage things and cannot keep pushing through tax increases and fee increases. Palm Coast is experiencing record level growth and bringing in higher revenues. But we must be good stewards of this. We have heard about the potential 102% increase in stormwater fees, and now $12 million annually or $52 million total needed for road maintenance. Not to mention swale maintenance that has been neglected and underfunded. Why was all this neglected and not a priority? Why are we spending $5 million on splash pads that fail within a few months, or planning a $73 million on an art center when we haven't maintained our roads or swales? What are the gas tax and impact fees being used for? In your 2023 virtual State of the City, you said that you want our residents not to worry about services. As a Palm Coast resident, I can tell you that I am worried about services and having to pay more in future due to poor management. I know you don't have an easy job, but I think we need to look at priorities and what is really needed and what the majority of people in Palm Coast want. I think having online surveys are a good start to get feedback from the community. Please listen to your constituents and keep Palm Coast, Palm Coast. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker that would like to address City Council at this time? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Marty Siegel, and I would like to talk about the Airbnb situation. And I'm talking about it tonight. John, that was here earlier, lives on my block, Cottage Gate Court. The Airbnb that he was talking about happens to be next door to me. A woman moved here from Tennessee, bought the house, and that's what she's making it. And my wife and I are scared silly. The gentleman just talked about, we have a gem here in Palm Coast. We have owned here in Palm Coast since 2006. This is the first time that I feel like I'm being invaded. I'm really afraid as to what is going to transpire next door to me when they get fully functional. They're in the process of fixing up the house right now because the house was built in '87, I believe, and it was owned by the same person who just passed away. So they're redoing some things. I just don't know what the long-term view is in terms of Airbnbs for Palm Coast, but I think it's something you really have to look at for the citizens that are here now. And if it is a business, it should be regulated like a business, but I don't think it should be allowed in residential areas.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker that would like to address City Council at this time?
But, okay.
Yes, sir.
Afterwards, I'd just like to address something about the
No,
Airbnbs.
okay.
Thank you.
Ron Shrine, I was here a minute ago. I just wanted to follow up
This is a
on
different, this is a different subject?
No, still on the Airbnb.
No, so we only get one time.
You only
3
get
minutes.
once?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Just so
I
I
was
could
gonna
be,
add some
just so I could be consistent.
Factual information.
But you're welcome to fill out a card and talk to our department heads in the back.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there another speaker that would like to address City Council at this time? Thank you.
Nathan Phelps from Palm Coast. As you guys are familiar, there is a flock of us that comes and discusses chickens every month. I don't think we have a pecking order, so I don't want to, poach anybody's ideas that will be behind me. But I couldn't decide. There's such a large topic. I couldn't pick one thing I wanted to focus on, so I'm kind of wing this one. I really hope I don't foul it up. I think chickens should be legalized and not treated like livestock the same way that cows are. They're smaller, quieter, and you don't smell poop cooking in the sun the same way when you drive down a country road. And I just don't think that this is what the founding fathers would have wanted. This is a complicated thing to really figure out to make work for us, and some of the finer points I think are a little paltry for a 3-minute speech. And when we start discussing all the different points, I know that this isn't like an over easy decision to make. So I don't want to put too much pressure on that. But I think this is something that's good for the environment. If you have a bird eating, bugs in your yard, you're not spraying it with poison. When they're fertilizing your yard, you're not taking away fertilizer or putting, artificial fertilizer into the ground, and you're not taking away from farmers who also do need their fertilizer. And so I do have one other thing that I would like to bring up, because I know we have our strategic action plan coming up. I did want to propose that a disc golf, I don't know how many people have played that, but it is kind of the pickleball of green spaces. It's up and coming, it's growing. Guys like myself that work from home and need a reason to go out walking and enjoy the woods, that's me. It gets me out walking. It's actually something that has benefited even, I've had church groups where guys, we don't want to sit in circles and talk about our feelings and talk about books. We walk and discuss. We want something to do. And it's low impact for the environment. As opposed to clearing an entire field to put in another tennis court. You take out a couple of trees, you put a cage in there, and you walk through, and it's very low impact. And I know that's part of something that we wanted in our green spaces, was something sustainable and good. And I'd love to have it as opposed to trying to travel to St. Augustine or Daytona in the evenings, making an hour trip for me. They have very wonderful facilities in both of those towns that are always busy, and have to wait in line sometimes because other people have figured out that this exists as well. It's a lot to consider. I know I brought up two things, so I'm gonna let these other guys get up here talking about their own points, and I'm gonna give you back your time.
So I admire your courage and not chickening out, so thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Is there another speaker, please?
Hello, I'm Josh Fabian. I stand before you today with a vision of a world where every backyard has a flock of chickens. I have a dream that one day we'll be able to enjoy the clucking of happy hens in our own backyards. We must not chicken out on this issue. For too long, we have been cooped up in our conventional ways of thinking, denying ourselves the simple pleasures of keeping backyard chickens. And now it's time to spread our wings and embrace a new way of life. Eggs, oh eggs, who doesn't love them? They're versatile, delicious, and nutritious, but they can also be expensive. By keeping chickens in our backyards, we can have a constant supply of fresh and organic eggs without having to break the bank. And don't forget the natural fertilizer and pest control. And it's not just about eggs, it's about taking control of our own food supply. It's about being self-sustaining and self-reliant. It's about having the courage to step out of our comfort zones and try something new. So let's hatch a plan to allow backyard chickens in our city. Let's be the trailblazers and the pioneers and the visionaries who leads us towards a more sustainable and fulfilling way of life. In the words of a great chicken enthusiast, Colonel Sanders, I dream of a world where chickens can cross the road without having their motives questioned. So let's embrace that dream and make it reality. Thank you. And remember, let's not be chickens, and let's make this happen even if it has to ruffle some feathers. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And is there another speaker that would like to address City Council at this time? Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi. So I know we're considered the chicken people now
Just introduce yourself for the record, please.
I'm Andrew.
Thank you.
Palm Coast. I was going to say we're considered the chicken people now because when we walked in, we were called the chicken people, but it's good to see some other fellow advocates. I just want to say, first of all, thanks to the council for considering, I did see that you guys had planned to take some action on this, and thank you for Councilwoman Pontieri for considering that. So I think that's the way things should work, is that we come and we, make some requests like this and hope to be heard. So I'm just gonna, I want to just say that, I appreciate that. And I support you guys. Your success is basically our success. So, I'm not going to, come and shake my fist or anything like that. I just want to talk about something else today. And I don't have any jokes. Sorry, guys. But I want to talk about the strategic plan and how it promotes civic engagement. And we did a really good job of that today, I think. We had some really good people advocating for a very good cause. And I saw all of you shaking your head about what they were saying, and it's obviously something to consider, and I would support too. But they brought up a good point. As we grow, we need to change, and we need to kind of grow with the community that we have. And the only way that we can do that is if we have a voice in what's done. So, last month we had some good people come in, and they've said some things that they were requesting, and there was a majority of folks who were on one side of the argument. And a few folks that were on the other. So, there was civic engagement there, but the issue was turned away. This week they were met with loud applause and handshakes, and last week they were turned away. And I'm just wondering, just because you guys are our legislative branch, why would you consider one when there was an obvious majority of folks who came to visit? So that's my question, is if we're going to grow together, if we're going to do this, if we're going to make Palm Coast a great place for all of us. I have kids in my family. We plan to stay. We love it here. Just if there's a situation like this, the only thing that I could think of why their considerations today were met with such enthusiasm and the ones that weren't last month was because of personal opinion of the council. So when we're talking about folks that come in and we want civic engagement, that's part of our strategic plan. When they do show up, let's recognize them. Let's not use our personal opinions about something or, our social our social group or other constituents that are not in the room, let's not use those as an example to turn down folks that have actually showed up to advocate for something. So, we could have went to a vote. I think that would have been the most appropriate thing. So thank you for my time today. Also have an excellent day.
Thank you for your comment.
May I call straight on the chicken subject?
Different subject? Yes, sir.
I empathize with Vincent Liguri, Palm Coast. I empathize with these people who want chickens. But do they realize what they will be bringing into town? This is still Florida. We have predators, namely fox, cougar, and there are other varieties out there. How do they propose to contend with this? I would not like living next to chicken coops that draw these things. Let's be sensible about this, folks.
Sir.
Let's be sensible about it. We're talking fox, what's the cat, the large cat? Somebody help me. What?
Big cats, go ahead.
All right, big cats.
Continue, yes.
Fox.
Yes.
It's the cat variety I'm missing the name of. But you must consider these things, the invasion of these chickens, because what's going to bring them back into the areas? And what about the kids? You saw the kids here tonight. You want them to contend with that problem too? I'm sorry.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any additional speakers that would like to address me at City Council this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Charlene. It was disappointing to hear the verdict of the moment of silence versus prayer issue last month. Not only because of the final vote, but because of how the explanation for the decision was made. The decision seemed to be based on council members' feelings and emotions rather than on the will of the people who elected them to represent them. There was a lot of talk about fear regarding prayer, fear of lawsuits, fear of opening up a can of worms. In fact, the main deciding factors seem to be fear and personal opinion. However, it is a dangerous precedent to set if you are making your decisions based on fear, or if you are going to set a standard of giving in to anyone who can threaten the loudest and therefore get their way. I'm sure you've heard of the repealing of the Lemon Law or the Lemon Test, which as a result has restored religious freedom in many places. As a result of this law being repealed, SB 1515 in Texas just passed the Senate and is headed for the House. This bill requires the 10 Commandments be posted in every school. America was founded on Judeo-Christian values. Our founders incorporated prayer and the Bible in the creating of our Constitution and the creation of this great nation. This is a quote by Benjamin Franklin, who was one of the signers of the Constitution. These words were spoken at the Constitutional Convention when they were creating the Constitution. In this situation of this assembly, groping as it were in the dark to find political truth and scarce able to distinguish it when presented to us, how has it happened, sir, that we have not hitherto once thought of humbly applying to the Father of lights to illuminate our understandings? In the beginning of the contest with Great Britain, when we were sensible to danger, we had daily prayer in this room for divine protection. Our prayers, sir, were heard, and they were graciously answered. All of us who were engaged in the struggle must have observed frequent instances of superintending providence in our favor. Have we now forgotten that powerful friend? Or do we imagine that we no longer need his assistance? I have lived, sir, a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, it is probable that is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? We have been assured, sir, in the sacred writing that except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. I firmly believe this, and I also believe that without his concerning aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. I therefore beg leave to move that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and its blessing on our deliberations be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business. And that was one of the writers of the Constitution.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker that would like to address me at City Council at this time?
Good evening, it's Joanne from Palm Coast. I'm here in response to the previous month's meeting on April 4th. I had heard that there were people advocating to have chickens in their backyards, so I logged onto your YouTube page to follow the saga. I did not know that you were voting on whether to include prayer in your meetings until that day. I watched as many people got up and shared how they would want you to start your meetings with prayer. I was not surprised, as this is known to be a very red area, and Republicans are the party of faith, family, and freedom. I was truly surprised at what I saw transpire. Only Ed Denko would vote for prayer in this council. I saw in broad daylight what people like to call rhino behavior. You are all Republicans. I will reiterate it again. We are the party of faith, family, and freedom. We are proud of our roots and want them to be honored and respected. Americans are used to prayer being included in civil life, and surely a group of Republicans would not only respect and honor that, but also advocate for it. It is honestly seen as elemental. I was appalled at that I had voted for you. I look around my community and know that if you polled them, they would want prayer. You no longer have my vote. You do not represent your people. I watched before when you were voting on tax increases do the same. There is a pattern here. You hear what your people want, and then you go and do the opposite. We really need different representation here. We are mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers, veterans and teachers. We want to hand our children and grandchildren a better future. Our communities deeply value what the Republican Party stands for, and we want to see you carry this out. This is what you were elected to do. There was talk that night about disenfranchising the people of Palm Coast by including prayer. However, these are not the people who voted you in. There was also talk that religion divides us. Historically, religion is what has united this country. We do not want weak leaders who are afraid of lawsuits, as was also said. The comments made in response were horrible, scatterbrained, not adequately thought out, lacking substance, logic, and understanding of those you represent. This is truly shameful, and we can certainly do better. We want to see that you are listening to your constituents and enacting what they want, not what your donors or woke pastors you might play golf with want. We are asking that our representatives up their game and act like they truly understand their constituents, those who voted for them. You need to earn our vote for the future because, as sadly at present, you do not have it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And with that, are there any remaining members of the public that would like to address me at City Council at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close this section of public comment, and I will come to the dais. Normally, our follow-up with speaker requests is done through city manager and following up through various department heads, because rarely is there an answer that is simple or quick. It usually involves either multiple departments or there are multiple individuals involved with the answer, which is why we use the index cards, so that we do in fact follow up with every request, if you'll be so kind as to fill out one of the cards so that we know who to contact. But with that, let me start with City Manager. Is there any particular issue you feel that you'd like to address at this moment?
Yes. City Council did give consensus on bringing back the discussions of neighborhood community chickens, and staff is working on a basic presentation to bring back, and we're looking at June 13th. That's the tentative schedule currently.
Thank you. And I'll go to City Council members now. Is there a particular issue that you feel obligated to comment now or as follow-up? Councilman Clufus, you had asked earlier. Yes, sir.
So I think, unfortunately, the majority of our Airbnb speakers have left, but there are two bills that are in the House and the Senate right now that our staff should be communicating to these individuals that will preempt any ability of the city to take any tighter legislation at a local level than at the state level. So there's a House bill, which is 1417, and a companion bill, Senate Bill 1586. And these bills will introduce legislation that basically prevents a municipality from tighter regulation of any rental, whether it's short-term or long-term, than the legislation states. So basically, we can have legislation, but it's only going to be allowed to make things more loose, and all of our ability to regulate these type of rentals will be removed from the municipal level, and essentially removing local rule.
So Councilman Clufus, just so all City Council members understand, I personally took a position today in the media to be a champion for home rule and to fight every way I know how to keep keep the Tallahassee government from marching forward to usurp home rule, because I will always believe in home rule so that we are able to create the ordinances, the protection, the restrictions, and the oversight for our city, which I do believe is unique, as are all cities in the state of Florida. So I made that public today, and will continue to stand behind it. So thank you for bringing it forward. Anyone else at this time?
Just very briefly, Mayor, thank you. Thank you to the chicken crew that did come out. I do appreciate city staff and my colleagues up here for being open-minded and looking at the ways that we can start to implement something that will help in this endeavor. Looking forward to that on June 13th. So please come back and learn about, to get the same information that we're getting from city staff after the research is done. Also, thank you, Councilman Clufus, for pointing out what the state is doing, and Mayor Alphen for standing up for home rule. It's really important that we be able to regulate ourselves on the local level here more. With regards to the kids and the coaches that were here earlier, I know all of them have left, but I do just want to thank them for being here, for being very respectful in their comments. And I have to say, I think the kids were as disciplined as they were, probably because they're in sports. I know sports saved my life. I think it's really important that we as council focus on the facilities that we have in place and how we can improve them. And I thank the gentleman who mentioned disc golf, because as we're looking at financially or fiscally responsible ways to improve our facilities, that is something that we have talked about. So it is on our radar, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So I just want to thank everybody who's here tonight and the respectful comments, and we do take them seriously. I've got 3 pages worth of notes, so we'll follow up with you.
Oh, one more quick thing.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to let the chicken people know that I did order a chicken and an egg off of Amazon, so I'll let you guys know.
Thank you for your comment, Councilman. Okay, so we will now move forward. Okay. Moving forward with the agenda this evening, and I appreciate everybody's attention and decorum. I mean, it makes my heart feel good. I'll go back to my original comment when we started today, that if you want to know what the definition of good governance is, this is where it starts. It starts not here, it starts out there. I appreciate every one of you and those that have sat in those seats earlier this evening. But with that, let me get back to business. Item number E on your agenda this evening are the minutes. So I would ask for a motion regarding the minutes of the business meeting of April the 18th, 2023.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Clufus, a second by Vice Mayor Danko. Let me know, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Does the clerk have the count?
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. I will also ask for a motion for the minutes of the special budget workshop that was held on April the 25th,
I'll make that motion.
2023. I have a motion by Vice Mayor Danko.
Seconded.
A second by Councilman Clufus. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Does the clerk have the count?
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We now move to item number G on the agenda, and item number 8. And will the clerk follow that up? Is that how that? Yeah. Okay, please.
Mayor, this is item number 7, just for purposes of clarification. Oh, maybe I have a different agenda from you.
Maybe. So I believe let's follow through with my request for number 8 while they sort this out.
Sure. So, Mayor and City Council, the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners has asked for a council liaison to the Flagler County Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. This board oversees the public transportation system for disadvantaged citizens in Flagler County.
So I could just add to that I've been approached by the county commission, and they feel quite passionate about the ability to make a difference through this committee process. So it's now up to us, and I have made a suggestion that Councilperson Kathy Hyder be our liaison, and I'd like to ask Ms. Hyder if that would be interesting and you're available and able.
I would be interested, and I will accept.
Very good. So a vote for this, or how do we proceed? Is it just an appointment?
Yeah, it's an appointment. You can do it by consensus.
Very good. So does everyone agree? Any questions about this? I think it's a good move, and
Sure.
It's just another further collaboration with our friends over at Flagler County. So thank you very much for stepping forward. Appreciate it. I look forward to your reports in the future. So with that, we have a unanimous consensus. So if you put that in the records for us, thank you. We will now move to item number H on your agenda, which would be resolutions. And Councilor, if you would start us off with resolution number 9 regarding stormwater fee.
Of course, Mayor. This is a resolution regarding stormwater utility fee and charges, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, amending Resolution 2018-120, Section 2, Subsection B, Stormwater Utility Charges Fees, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the necessary documents, providing for future amendments, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for implementing actions, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Councilor. And Mr. Cody, you have a summary presentation for us?
Yes, good evening. Carl Cody, Director of Stormwater Engineering Department. Today we have with us again is Murray Hamilton from Reftelis, our consultant that the city hired to perform our stormwater rate study update. And he is going to go forth and present the update from Council's past actions for us to look at, and we'll present those this evening.
Thank you, Carl. Again, for the record, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Murray Hamilton. I'm a Vice President at Reftelis. We're a utility rate and financial consulting firm. Again, as Mr. Coate pointed out, hired by the city to help evaluate the stormwater system. We've got a very brief presentation for this evening. Really, just to summarize some points of where we've been through this journey in evaluating the stormwater system. On February 14th, we held a workshop to review the stormwater biannual update and the results of our utility rate study on behalf of city staff. We received some direction from City Council at that time to look at a cost-benefit analysis for the option of possibly bringing some work crews in-house under city leadership, as well as to look at some alternatives in regards to right-of-way mowing improvements. We followed that meeting up with, again, another workshop on April 11th, and the direction that the City Council gave us at that point was for the purposes of setting monthly stormwater rates to remove the right-of-way services from that charge, and for staff to further look at some options at a future meeting date in order to look at either possibly an assessment option for those services, or to adopt standards that are requirements for all properties throughout the city. And so that most likely will come back to the City Council at a later time. But regarding the utility rates, you may recall we talked about different levels of service, different levels of priorities, what the rate adjustments were over time, and the direction that City Council provided us was first and foremost, we had a fifth and highest priority level that included 2 swell crews. We were asked to remove that as an option. That has been done. The City Council provided staff direction, one, to look at the overall system cost and see how we could spread that out over time, while also targeting a maximum revenue for fiscal year 2024 in purposes of setting that budget in place, not to exceed an adjustment of $4 million per year. And so that's what we worked with staff over the last several weeks in order to compile. And Mr. Coate put together a brief several slides on the adjustments that were made. In regards to priority number 1, which was to maintain our current levels of maintenance, we made modifications to, first and foremost, remove the right-of-way mowing costs at direction of City Council. We modified the freshwater canal dredging crew from a 5-man crew to 1 person, and that will manage a large pontoon excavator. This will provide the ability to address spot locations within the canal systems that impede the utility functions. City staff will continue to pursue grants and state revolving funding for large-scale freshwater canal dredging projects in the future. A dredging crew may be considered as part of a future rate study, again to be determined at a later date. And to point out that the original start date of the crew was in fiscal year 2027, and this one employee is now slotted to be hired in 2025, and again, to operate that large pontoon excavator. It also eliminated, we had two prospective equipment loans, one in 2024, one in 2026. These modifications under Priority 1 eliminate that second loan for equipment, a savings of a little more than $300,000 per year. On Priority 2, which was focused on adding strategic capital improvements, the modifications that were made removed construction funding for Lehigh Canal capacity improvements. Again, staff will continue to study this particular project in the coming year. The funding for the design was included in the 5-year capital plan. Construction will be done in conjunction with the roadway intersection improvements of Old Kings Road, Town Center Boulevard, Royal Palms Parkway. Loan funding may be considered at a later date when the construction timing is better known and those costs as well. And the same is true for the expansion of London Waterway. Again, the design costs were included in the 5-year planning horizon. The construction costs were moved out in time. They'll be revisited when those construction schedules and timing are better known. We did have a slight increase in the overall pipe rehabilitation costs and pipe lining on the maintenance side. On Priority 3, we had in-house freshwater canal crew. Originally, we had the crew coming on for the full year, fiscal year 2024. That was moved to a mid-year interim hire date. It would allow city staff the opportunity to get all the equipment in-house and on-site in order to facilitate those needs. And then lastly, the concrete and asphalt crew was completely moved out to 2025. Thank you. And again, that will allow the city the opportunity to make sure we have all the equipment needs on hand when that crew arrives. And then lastly, priority number 5, as it was requested, was removed from the overall plan. Some of the numbers that I wanted to give you. First and foremost, we had a fiscal year 2027 test year. That was the 5th year of our rate study analysis. For the phase-in strategy that staff undertook, we actually pushed the forecast period out another year to, again, align those costs over a longer period of time. Operating expenses, compared to what you saw in our last workshop, reduced almost $3 million a year by that 5th year. The debt service costs, again, we eliminated the second equipment loan. We deferred some of the construction projects that we were borrowing money for. We reduced the future principal and interest payments that were assumed by over $2 million per year. And then the pay-as-you-go capital, although you heard that we added some for pipelining and pipe replacement, the overall cost savings spread out over that 5 and 6 year period was reduced about $500,000 a year. So big ticket adjustments here when we walk through the results. Just to recap again some of the history. So our current rate that's in place today is $22.27 per month. This charge was adopted coming out of the 2018 rate study. The City Council has already adopted a rate for actually 2024. It's in the amount of $23.95, and if that went into place next year, it would be a $1.68 increase. Based on the $4 million assumed to be budgeted appropriation for 2024, the proposed rate would be $28.34. It would represent a $4.39 increase above the already adopted rate for 2024. And a sliding scale of the fees. Again, we did continue to break out the 4 priority levels for information so you can see how they scale up. Certainly, the greatest cost is maintaining our current level of service at the maintenance level. And over that 5-year period, it would result in an increase of approximately $9.93. And then the other priorities are, again, additive. The total monthly bill is shown at the bottom of slide 11, and you can see that. Again, the current charge is $22.27 per month. If the council adopted the 2024 rate, that would be $28.34 per month starting next year. I also believe Mr. Coate has some future actions beyond the rate study. Is this something you want to cover?
Yeah, we can touch upon this, and then we'll go back to the previous slide for discussion. That we do have a future action, which is separate from the rate update, which is our stormwater utility service area. So, you know, back in 2011, when we did the stormwater rate study analysis, or when the city conducted it, there were certain areas that they used the information they had at the time. And since then, things have changed. We got more information, better information. We reviewed drainage basin information from the Water Management District. We've done new LIDAR in conjunction with the Water Management District, so we have that information. And we've also updated and completed our stormwater, overall stormwater model with ICPR, which really helps us align what our basin area is, ignoring city boundaries. So in the past, I think part of the boundary had just stopped based at the city boundary at the time. So this basically will reflect the areas that contribute to the city's stormwater system. So when there are future annexations or things that may happen, they're already included, and we won't have to come back and do future updates to the boundary. This will be an overall arching boundary, and we'll have much more information when we come back to you on this. I just wanted to make you aware that we did factor in any potential additional revenue from any annexations that, you know, have happened recently or that may be coming in the future as to what impact they may have on the revenue. It's very small, but we did account for that as part of this, knowing this would be coming in the future. So I just wanted to go back to the stormwater rates here and show you that, you know, we did add 1 year to it. So we had 1 more year, you know, the numbers went down, but we added a year of additional inflationary costs and whatnot. So even though the numbers still went down, even though we had added in those additional annual increases that we would have normally have added to the rate. So we're here, Murray and I are here for any questions you may have.
So help me with this. My heart is palpitating still. I see the numbers under fiscal year 28. Just help me understand why you've put those numbers in that particular column.
I probably could have created another column all the way to the right. That's the overall increase over the 5-year period. So,
but that's at the end, just so the media understands. That's the number that would happen 5 years from now.
Yeah, if you add up each increase over 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28, that would be the increase for that priority at the end of the 5th year.
So what City Council is considering this evening is an increase from, is it 2395 up to 2834? Is that where we're at?
Yes, because that's already approved.
Okay, and I'm gonna go to our consultant here. So can you identify, and I'm sorry, I'll get to questions in a minute. Can you identify for me the capital improvement projects, just in summary, that are making up the cost in fiscal year 24?
That are making up the
cost? Yeah, what are those capital improvements, so I understand what you have deemed to be essential to do in this next fiscal budget year?
Okay, sir. Now, a lot of this is recurring maintenance, but we've got the saltwater canal system, control structure repairs. That's the M2, sorry.
Yeah, that's our M2 control structure.
M2 control structure, pipe inspection and lining, drainage improvements, both design as well as construction in the following year, ditch and pipe rehab. You've got that's another year out. So some things got pushed out a year. major pipe replacements, asphalt, those are all recurring maintenance, swale maintenance and rehab and rehabilitation, ditch, weed control, freshwater canal dredging.
So at the.
Well, what I'm looking at, Carl,
Projects-
what I'm looking at the percent increase, so.
Oh,
I know
I'm
these.
sorry, we don't calculate the percent increase for
No,
each
no,
individual
no,
project.
I'm looking at the percent increase.
Yes, sir.
That those improvements add up to from last year, from this year to the budget year that we're talking about. I'm trying to justify in my mind what the cost of these capital improvements are. And Carl, I'm coming back to you to ask you, which of those things, if not done, would be the introduction to some catastrophic failure?
Currently in '24, we have no major projects identified. What we have in there are our maintenance or replacement rehab items that are capitalized, such as our pipe replacements, our pipelining. So I think it's about $1 million worth of work.
So is that a bulk of what we're talking about? Well, I'm trying to get to the point where if we don't do it, the city's going to fall apart. And you're talking about, you've got to bring in this pipe and for renovation and repair,
Right.
because we're going to have failure. I understand that.
Right. That includes our 50 pipes or so that our crews replace. That includes the 25, 30 miles of swale rehab. It includes, about $500,000 or so in pipelining that we may do depending on if we have emergency pipe failures, if we have projects, we have them every year. You've seen them, Belterre, Royal Palms, Rimfire. So it's kind of a placeholder. We identify pipes. We currently have $300,000 worth of pipe just right now that are currently failing that we're out of money this year. So it's those types of projects. The ones that are failing between homes, they're 5 feet off people's homes. So, if they collapse even more and have a washout, it could impact people's homes. So yes, nothing in that $900,000 can be eliminated without causing impact.
That's the answer to my question. So there's twofold here. So you've got the money in there to maintain the current level of service. Swales is being an example of that, and there are others as well. And then you're identifying those infrastructure elements that absolutely require attention at the earliest possible moment.
Yes.
Very good, okay. I'm sorry, city council members, questions?
So we're looking at about, what, a 33% increase over 5 years? My math is correct?
If you're talking about a percent of the bill, it's greater than that. What I would caution about that, eye of the beholder, these are small dollars. So anytime you have
Well, there's no such thing as small dollars.
I know. Anytime you have an increase in a small dollar, the percentage is great.
Right. So what is the percentage of the increase?
The cumulative percentage is about 75% from today's rate to $39.10.
Today's rate is what now?
$22.27.
So a 75% increase.
75% increase over that 5-year period.
From this year, 2023, what do we have left of what we budgeted for? Anything? Will you have any money left at the end of the year that we can toss to this?
Well, okay. Yes, sir. So we do. We have reserve funds. We have a reserve fund policy. We have a slight amount of reserves that are above that minimum, which is one of the reasons we're able to phase in the rate adjustments over the first couple.
So what's our reserve fund and what is above the minimum, or what we are saying the minimum is?
We've used the reserves to reduce the rate reduction already. So in future years, we brought the reserves down to the minimum to lower the rate increase.
And what's the minimum?
20%.
Well, give me a number.
It depends on the year. It depends on your operating costs, your loan coverage. There's several factors that will affect what that has to be in reserves.
It's about $2.5 million.
Okay.
So
that's for 2023.
That's for 2023, because over time, as you add more debt service payments, as you add more inflation, that dollar value is going to go up.
Where I want to get to with this, just so I can cut to the chase, is if in 2024 we don't spend all that money, can we reduce the rate for 2025 by applying that above that reserve amount?
If you did not spend it, that answer is yes.
Okay.
When you get to that point in
invites
time.
Mr. Cody's presentation that there could be catastrophic failure
Right.
during that year. So that's,
Right.
and I think,
But
I don't want to
if
put the
there
words in
isn't-
your mouth, but here's what city council is struggling with. So by my calculator, I mean, for the coming budget season that the SAP that we're working on now, you've got basically an 18% increase, which is increasing, above inflation. So I guess we're just trying to get our heads around that. I'm not looking out 5 years now. I'm looking at the next fiscal budget period, and by my calculation, I think I got 18%, which is, give or take 3 times what the inflation rate is. So I understand cost of materials, supply chain, everything else. Can you help me be more comfortable with the magnitude of that increase just for the next fiscal year?
Well, I think what that relates to is it's not a direct reflection of inflation.
Okay.
It's the deficiency where the staffing levels are today and the maintenance that you're able to perform at the current level.
So are you kindly suggesting that some of this work hadn't been done in the past and it's rolling forward to today? Just so let's get to the bottom line. So a lot of work wasn't done in the past, and we are at a point where we absolutely have to manage it now.
May I ask a quick question that might help this? How long has this been neglected, Carl? In your estimation, how many years have we not been funding this like we should?
Well,
And I'm talking about big project replacement so that we don't have these catastrophic failures.
I'm not sure if it's necessarily been neglected. We outlined in the biannual update, when the city took it over from Palm Coast Community Service Corp., they had very small dollars and they were only reactionary. Part of the challenge that we face is a lot of this went in at the same time. So it's not that it was neglected, it's that we have a massive system aging together. Yes, the ditches were never maintained, so we started maintaining those. It's had a great impact, but we still have a lot of work to do on the ditches. But in terms of the pipe work, it's just all aging at the same time. So you could have replaced pipes sooner before it deteriorated, but it may have been too soon. You don't want to replace a good pipe, but you don't want to wait till it fails either. So it's one of those planned, outcomes of, what's the best way to phase that in. We've addressed a lot of our capacity issues. As we continue to grow, we're relating to areas or discovering areas where we need to add capacity. So as we infill more lots or as we, grow as a city, we're identifying, or we have different storm events that occur, that helps us, come to realization of here we have problem spots. We need to go spend some dollars here. So I don't think there's been necessarily neglect. I think, when we presented this in 2018, we presented 3 options. One was, pretty much just a little bit more than what we're doing today. Then we had an enhanced program, and then we had maybe a super enhanced program. And the council at that time went with the middle program. So we basically started our work on improvements, the ditch crew, and we started doing some additional levels of service increase and ramping up our pipe replacement program. And so now we're at the next step is that middle plan wasn't keeping up with our failure rate and our maintenance of our system, and costs have gone up. So now we're at the point where, yes, we need to ramp up our efforts a little bit to catch up and not fall behind, because we're falling behind on some of our failures or aging of our system. And we need to address our inflation cost increases.
So as a follow-up to that, I just have one follow-up. Based on what you've presented to us, are you confident that with this plan, with this 5-year plan, we can largely catch up, we can be in a good place to where we can give our residents some relief after this 5 years and not hit them again when another rate study comes up? Because my concern is I would feel much better about this if I know that in this 5 years, we're going to hustle and get these projects taken care of and done. And so that in 5 more years, we're not hitting our residents again with another astronomical increase. Because in my mind, this is a lot of money for stormwater a month after these 5 years.
I think your point is well taken, and I would just add to that. as difficult as it is, we are all struggling with a defect, if you will, in the original ITT template. And I think as Carl has pointed out, and thank you for your question, that when all of your, or a majority of your infrastructure comes due or reaches its old bones moment, literally in a short timeline, which is now, it requires a redress, which I'm not sure the founders had anticipated or planned for. So this is that difficult moment.
So I have a question. Why do we do 5 years? Why not do 3? And see where we're at.
Well, you know, as you know, capital projects plays a big role in this. So, you know, right now we have design projects that we're not planning to construct until 25 or 26.
Okay.
Because we have to design them, we have to model them, we have to permit them, then we need to bid them out for construction. So typically a 5-year plan when we're looking at capital improvements is what you look at. And that's fairly consistent with what we do with our impact fees with, you know, transportation or fire and those sorts of things. So it's in alignment with all our other fees that we charge.
I guess my concern here is, like Councilwoman Pontieri said, if we could guarantee, you know, our citizens that at the end of 5 years, we're going to be really ahead of this game, that's great. But obviously, I don't think we can do that. So I guess my question is, with this type of major increase, I'd like to see some lower numbers.
So, Vice President, let me just add to your question a little bit based on my liaison responsibility with the TPO. That 5-year plan is what not only the TPO but DOT uses as well, because the engineering is significant, and reducing the timeline for the projection is difficult. Now, as we step forward, you know, each year, there's no reason why we wouldn't be able to evaluate the position that we're in. So, in my mind, I'm not committing to these numbers without a redress and a review each budget fiscal year.
That was what I was discussing
Guarantee is
earlier.
tough, I get it, because
Like
we don't know how the economy, but we'll have that option to look at this. Now, just with a footnote, they're moving forward on a 5-year planning basis, so we have to be in there and talk about this in detail each year going forward. I think that's the best, with a lack of a guarantee, that's the best that City Council can do to make sure that this doesn't get out of hand. So
Right, that we're not, you know,
clearly,
here or somebody else is not saying 5 years.
clearly a priority for us to discuss every year.
So we can make that a priority?
Well, that's up to us. Why wouldn't we?
I'd like to make a motion that we make that a priority.
I think we have consensus. I think that we would all delve into this project
Not just
each
for
year.
us, but for any future council people too, that every year this is looked at.
Well, and I think to add to your point too, Councilman Danko, I would like to see some stronger action than that. And after this 5 years, and I understand it affects loans and all those things, but I think that city staff can maybe figure something out where at this 5-year period after this, if we have a strong degree of confidence that these monies will go to fixing the projects we need to fix stormwater-wise in our city, that it only goes up by the 2% CPI for the next 5 years, and that we do not impose an increase like this on our residents for 10 years from this point. I think that there is some way that we can accomplish that, and I look to city staff, and I challenge city staff to maybe get us there.
Wait, but before we get to that, you're handcuffing future city councils if there's an emergency.
No, I'm challenging our staff.
But if you were to pass legislation that would disallow raising stormwater rates
Well,
more than 2%, you would be handcuffing our future
I understand your
councils.
concern. I actually spoke with Mr. Cody about this yesterday, and there is some language that we can work into where if there's a catastrophic failure, if there's something unpredictable that does come up and we do need to fund something, then that there's room there. So I recognize your concern.
Right.
Isn't that why we have reserve funds?
Well, hold on, before we get there. So, Councilperson Pontieri, if that language were added to the strategic action plan, in other words, as part of our vision going forward, would that begin to satisfy? I mean, I understand what you're saying, and within the strategic action plan, which gets visited every year by both this council and all future councils, if that is part of the long-term vision of the current strategic action plan that we do. Would that satisfy what you're trying to accomplish?
I think if from a
Because quite frankly, just right now, I have no idea what the CPI is going to be 3 years or 5 years from now. I can't possibly agree to a number that would exist in the future because I just have no idea.
Well, right now, I think it's 2%. And I understand what you're saying, but perhaps I want to see something very strong, though. I don't want it to be something that, to Vice Mayor Danko's point, that future council can sit up here and do away with and say, well, we're going to now vote to completely do away with what council did with when we're trying to protect the wallets of our residents.
Remember I'm sorry, 1 second. I remember our strategic action plan is dynamic in terms of it doesn't really ever end. In other words, you have pillars within your strategic action plan which carry over whether we're here or not. And that becomes, now future city councils will have to discuss those pillars and refine them and everything else. I do have good faith in the fact that the voters will elect council members to look at their numbers and protect their tax liabilities as best they can. But inserting some strong language, and I would urge you, if you're willing to revisit the strategic action plan with that item, that's certainly something that I would favor.
So could we add that to our strategic action plan tonight, since we're about
Well, I don't know that we could do it tonight,
Okay.
but we
And
can
delay
certainly
ours
give
to
direction to staff that that's an update that we would like. If all of us, I'd like to get a consensus
Totally.
that we
I would
all
like-
are okay with this
Yeah.
procedure, and I think Councilman Kloufas has a...
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking a little bit from the, council historian here, if we had that verbiage when we adopted the enhanced stormwater program back in 2018, we would be handcuffed today to not make these type of level of changes. I agree that it sounds like it's a great idea, but stormwater and the severity of natural occurrences has certainly changed, and I'm sure that we learned a lot about over by Colbert, the flooding that occurs during Matthew and Irma, but that's fine. I just don't think that if we had that verbiage in there 2018, we would be sitting here handcuffed, not able to do anything except for the 2.5% increase, which would have left us, high and dry, no pun intended. But I just don't think that it's something that we should be doing as far as handcuffing the future councils. If we were here with that same imposed, I just want to tell you guys, if we were here and we had imposed that in 2018, what would we do?
But what if it were part of the strategic action plan, we would have the ability to review and update it.
Sure.
But that vision for strategic action planning, again, is not for only the current year. It's for the future looking forward. So for one, I think that I would support offering a vision at this time that looks forward to accomplish that. Now, if the realities don't support it, there's still room for adjustment. In other words, I don't think this is a handcuffing exercise. I think it's us putting a vision together, which is not short-term, it's a little bit longer-term in terms of vision. It's certainly the goal we would like to achieve if it's possible. Now, can I speak to resiliency and sustainability and exactly what's going to happen? I can't do any better than how much more sand is going to be needed on Flagler Beach. I have no idea. I certainly wouldn't want to predict what that would be. So I appreciate the comment. So I'm just going to ask, I would like to get a kind of a unanimous consensus that would you be willing to look at language in the strategic action plan that would help get to this vision beyond through this period to get to
What does that
achieve
look like?
to achieve this objective.
Basically, what you're saying is, hopefully, we know everything, we know all the unknowns today, is what we're...
Which obviously we don't.
Mayor, may I get an answer to my question that I had posed to Mr. Cody? Based on this, and I'm not trying to say you avoided the question, you just weren't given an opportunity to answer, Carl. Based on what we are looking to fund right now, do you have a certain degree of confidence that we could fund a lot of our aging pipes and prevent a lot of catastrophic failure if we go with this plan?
That was the purpose of putting this plan together, is our pipes are failing faster than we're keeping up. So we've added and enhanced or, put more dollars into the areas of concern, specifically pipes, pipelining, some of our capacity improvements where we do have flooding, the Blair, the Colbert Lane culvert upsizing, some other projects up in the north end. So we have projects throughout the city where we're trying to address some capacity concerns. So, those are in there, yes.
I understand you don't have a crystal
So-
ball, and I
right.
asked the question, Mayor, because
Yeah, no, no,
to-
I
to-
understand.
To your
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
Councilman Clufus, if in 2017 or 2018 you all had gone with the enhanced plan rather than the middle plan, then
Well, the
I
enhanced was
agree
the
with you.
middle
I
plan. The
agree.
enhanced was the middle plan. It was the super duper enhanced that we didn't go
Super-duper
with.
enhanced,
Yeah.
whatever
We didn't
semantics we
maintain
wanna
status
use.
quo. We heavily increased our.
And I'm not faulting prior council, what I'm saying is that it feels like now what we here are saying is we're willing to spend a little bit more money now, but we need to make sure we're protecting our residents later. Whereas previously it was, let's kind of go this middle route so we're not hitting residents super hard right now. And I completely sympathize with that position. I think that in the situation now, yes, you're right, we would be handcuffed. What I'm saying, the difference between that and this is, if we go with this, we're not handcuffing future city council because we're not making them make that decision. We're in the position we're in now because we were falling behind, kind of like the road maintenance. So we're having to make this tough decision, knowing that we're planning for the future to not strap our residents with another increase like this 5 years from now. That's
Okay.
my overall goal.
So are we good adding some language to our vision within this strategic plan that the goal is that with Carl's enthusiastic yes, I think that was an enthusiastic yes to Councilperson Pontieri question, simply stated that yes, you have a high degree of confidence that this, with what you know today, certainly not knowing the unknowns, this gets us to the finish line without some dramatic change, and perhaps even a lesser number if you're really on the job.
Correct. I mean, that was the intent of putting this together, is based on what we know today and our projections moving forward. You know, we're going to be replacing pipes for many, many, many more years to come. So our intent is based on, like you said, exactly. I guess the answer to your question is yes. Correct.
I just again want to make sure, though, as part of this, every year we look at this.
Of course.
Like,
But-
suppose we go through a whole year
So-
and nothing happens. Like, you know, all the pipes are good and we have all this leftover money. That would be great,
Okay.
right? Yeah, amen.
And I think we have complete consensus that would happen, so good, very good. Now, Mr. Cody, tell me, with regard to staff, what is the direction that you are looking for this evening?
Well, the direction in the resolution would be to approve the rates through 28 because we have loans in 24 for equipment, and then we have construction loans in 25 and 26.
So with regard to your point, Councilman, if there's a motion to approve with the caveat that it be reviewed each year, that sticks. So that gets you to where I think you want it to be.
Right, and I want to make sure the media knows that, you know, even though this looks like a huge increase in 5 years, there's a good chance that maybe it won't be a huge increase when we get to that 5-year period.
So would you like to kind of put the verbiage there for the motion?
So what verbiage are we looking at, Counselor?
Well,
May I just say
Or other
one more
counselor.
thing? I'm looking for some language or some direction from city staff, perhaps our city manager, with regards to what we can do after fiscal year 28 to where we're not revisiting this, and possibly when other people are sitting in these seats can then hit our residents with another $11 increase plus inflation, whatever that is, over a 5-year period. And I'm looking for some type of language. I understand it's tough, I get it, but is there something that we can do that holds people more accountable than just talking about a priority that could drop off?
Well, it's conceptual. So here's the thing. So 5 years out, that's a crystal ball. So, you know, God forbid we got a direct hit from any kind of a storm. We could well be underwater to the west side of 95. It's just that the unknowns multiply as each year goes forward. And Councilperson Pontieri, let's go back to, and I think it's the Belterre example, because you had quite a bit of conversation there. So there's an example where what they know today is a certain pipe needs to be replaced. Now, when they start to tear that up and dig it up to the best of their ability, there may be 3 to 5 other factors that are just completely unknown, and you can't build in buffers. I mean, nobody can do that. So I'm just concerned about the increased number of unknowns as you march that forward into the future. I like the vision. I'd like the strategic action plan to be the vision. Now, if that can be in the motion, I'm not sure how that works. I would prefer to see it in the strategic action plan. If you feel strongly, then offer a language for a motion now.
Well, and from a legal perspective, and also I don't want something to negatively affect the long-term loans
Right.
that we have. So that's kind of my concern and why I'm looking to perhaps city staff to, and if we need to come back to this, I don't know. But Mayor, respectfully, we also, well, I didn't approve it, but council approved an increase over something that should have been seen out in the field before a contract was entered into, because they looked at the site from a drone rather than going out to the field and seeing it in person. So I think that diligence can be done to be more fiscally responsible with our residents' dollars in the future, knowing that, hey, like I said, we need to hustle in this 5 years and get done what we need to get done for these amount of money. So I'm just looking for something that ensures accountability to our residents so they're not seeing this high increase again.
I guess, and I understand, if you've ever remodeled a house and torn out a piece of sheetrock, you find things you had no idea were behind that sheetrock. So I know you can't, even going out on site, sometimes there's going to be things you discover once you start digging stuff up that's, you know, I mean, that happens. I get that. But maybe we can make this motion to a point of where we approve this with the understanding that we will be reviewing it every year, that this is not going to possibly be a final number, that this is going to be subject to yearly review.
Counselor, can a motion be made that the review is required by, and I think to Councilperson Pontieri's point of view, that there'll be a standing requirement that the review of these numbers by City Council would be the best way to help us from preventing,
And add it to the strategic action plan.
These kind of increases, because the plan has been effective. Can you offer us up some words for that?
Sure. So I think a review would be the appropriate language because, part of that review, as Carl said, if we're looking to get loans and bond some of the work, we have to have a surety that we can pay it, and then we have to be able to say, these are our projected revenues for these years based on that. So, as we talked about before, implementing these starts a chain reaction of how we fund the improvements that are going to occur. It would be hard to take back on some of that since we have our loans and our bonds based on that. We wouldn't want to default on anything, number one. So that would be my concern. I don't see a problem with some type of asterisk of Exhibit A to say that, the City Council will revisit these fees and charges on a yearly basis to ascertain whether they're still, the most up-to-date version, whether there's been changed circumstances. The thing that you have to be wary of is that if we do have some type of storm or catastrophic failure, the revisiting may not result in what we would hope.
But we may be getting some assistance if we have something that catastrophic from a hurricane too. FEMA moves in. And,
again, there's no crystal ball to say that.
I just want to make sure that the public understands that this is not in stone. That we're not saying in 5 years you're going to be getting a 75% increase. I want to make sure the public understands that we're on top of these numbers every year, and if there's a surplus left 1 year, we can possibly lower the following year.
Go ahead.
Then to piggyback on that, if I think in order to make it stronger, because correct me if I'm wrong, Counselor, but if we do get loans and we bond them with certain projected revenues, we can revisit these until we're blue in the face, but we still have to bring in the same amount of revenue, correct? Okay, so looking at that, then the numbers could never go down, they would only go up, which is not what we're looking for. So if we're going to go this route, I think that the language should be something similar to, or in the family of, if there is a surplus, it is to roll over and be added to the revenue for the next year in order to decrease the monthly fee for that fiscal year. If there's some type of language we can use in that way, that means that surplus has to be we can't just say, oh, good, we get to spend more money. No, that surplus has to be rolled over into the next fiscal year, and then that would in turn allow us to reduce the rate. Is
Don't
that
the-
possible?
Doesn't this funding already stay in and, I mean, it doesn't go, it can't be used anywhere else?
Part of that is some capital projects spread over 2 years. So sometimes you have balance left over from 1 year because the project didn't finish in that year, and you're saving up those dollars to build something the following year. So it gets very complicated to do the analysis you're talking about when you're trying to do
And the
that type of
dollars can't
assessment.
migrate outside of these projects. I mean, it's not, that's a bucket.
Well, then
They're enterprise
maybe we
funds,
keep it within this 5-year period then. So maybe we
Okay.
say, in this 5-year period, we'll look to rolling these over for these revenues in order to perhaps, in fiscal year '27, not increase, if that's possible.
Assuming there's rollovers.
Correct.
Right, okay.
But not to interrupt, but again, that's the function of a rate study.
Right.
So going into our current planning cycle, we had a little more than $5 million in the reserve fund balance. We said the minimum was $2.5 million. So what did we do with the other 2.5? We used those reserves to help phase in the first set of rate adjustments over the first couple years. So that's how you do it. If you're trying to do it 1 year at a time, where you take a surplus and you try to roll it into the next year, as Carl pointed out, one, it's usually tied to a project that's already appropriated, so it really just moved in time. But it's also a 1-year benefit, right? A lot of these costs are recurring. So just because you had $100 in surplus last year and you want to apply it to the next year, it doesn't mean you eliminated a cost going forward. You may end up with a ping pong in the overall rate schedule. I would add that, you're the city council. Annually, you look at the budget. Okay, so just by the mere fact of adopting the rate resolution, you have every authority to revisit that rate resolution through the budget process.
And the council person is also trying to add vision to that, so that the end game, at the end of the 5 years, we're in a good position. I respect that. So between the Vice Mayor, Council Pontieri, can you offer us some simple language to get us to a motion on this that makes you comfortable?
Well, this is complex. I'm not sure I can just come up with simple language off the top of my head. Do we need to table this for another week and allow staff or our council to come up with that language?
Is there any negative effect to pushing it to the next business meeting? I mean,
Yeah.
do we need to vote on this right now?
Well, we don't need to. It is fresh in our discussion right now. Other than making a motion to approve what's before you, adding to that, and I think, Counselor, you had a suggestion on how we can look at the numbers each year. You had stated it before, I forget the term that you used.
Well, I believe I said the yearly we could say something along the lines of the yearly stormwater rate fees and charges established herein will be revisited by City Council on a yearly basis consistent with the budget process or something along those
This is such a
lines.
large increase, and I don't want the public to think that we're taking this lightly, that maybe we should delay this to the next workshop and have that language down, because I think it's important that, again, I don't want that headline to say, City Council raises
that headline,
5%.
trust me, that headline's already been written.
Yes, in
So-
2018,
so-
2018 that
That
headline was
headline's
written.
already here.
Mayor,
So-
2018, that headline was literally what our council, I'm telling you, we sat here and we had the same hard decision that we had to double our stormwater rate over the next 5 years, and that's where we are today. And that's why I'm saying our councils, we have sat in the same position, and we have had things that are just like these same conversations. Never did our council ever say, let's give the taxpayers a break. We had to have the hard conversation of we're going to have to face a 100% increase. And that's the headline that we had in 2018.
Now, the other piece of this, just from Councilman Kloufus's experience with being up here on City Council is, so yes, this is a really hard decision, so I can tell you right now there's a pound of flesh coming out of some other part of the budget. So you'll have to decide, you know, how important, I mean, it's a rhetorical question. How important is stormwater? Well, stormwater is right up there with road surfacing and everything else. It's an essential, integral part of the budget that you just can't deny and you can't get away from. I have no problem if you want to look, you know, postpone this a little bit so you get more comfortable with the language. I don't think that's really necessary, but I just have to ask Carl, does this in any way delay any project engineering or work? Because this is going to be,
No,
if you're going to go workshop and then come back, this is going to be.
Make it part of the
no,
consent
this,
agenda.
wait, this is going to be a few weeks.
Yeah, will that hurt you, Carl, a few weeks?
No, this could come back, but, you know, one thing to caution, if we are going to do an annual review, you know, it's more than likely going to require our consultant to do that analysis to make sure we got the right rate coverage on the loans, you know, the debt service coverage, you know, and those sorts of things factored in if you're looking to lower the rate. So it's not just a matter of moving money around. I wanted to point that out there. You know, one thing that maybe better language would be if the city obtains additional revenues from loans or grants, you know, or you know, maybe I should have said grants. You know, if we obtain additional revenue outside of what was in the rate study, then we would revisit the rates to maybe we could lower the rates because we now have additional revenue that came from other sources. You know, because that's something that could indeed reduce rates by getting someone else to pay for projects.
And Carl, I appreciate that, and that's part of the reason why I do think that we should maybe push this to another workshop, and then whether it's consent agenda item or it goes back on, you know, on the regular agenda for a business meeting, because I do think that staff and council can work one more time to work in language that way to really insulate our residents from a further increase down the road.
Councilman, based on your experience, is that acceptable to you?
Sure, I think that's a responsibility of all our councils.
Councilperson Hyder, is that work for you? Obviously, both for you. Carl, I don't want to dream here. The chance of, I think you said, finding somebody else to pay for this stuff, personally, I think is unrealistic. You'll have to come back to me and show me that there's some magic money out there. There are leprechauns in the field that are, you know, expelling magic golden coins because, you know, God love you if you could find something, but you'd have to tell me where that's coming from before I believed it.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, if the economy changes in the next 5 years and goes in a good direction.
As the Wall Street Journal reported just yesterday in a column about the boom that's going to last for several years. I love it. And we said that before. This could turn the other way. And Councilperson Pontieri, I mean, I think you and I are thinking, so this is a worst case basis that can never go any worse than this. And we're protecting the future from this becoming any worse than this.
That's exactly that's my goal, yes.
Of course. Yeah. So if staff, if you'll bring this back to us based on the comments that you heard today, and then I will also ask council to formulate some language that could be shared with each city council member independently. I don't know if you can do that or not.
Well, we can include it in the agenda.
Okay, just so that we have something to work from. I think that we feel it's serious enough, important enough, and the tax liability on the residents is so sensitive, and there isn't any one of us that wants to increase residents' taxes by even $1. There is nobody up here that wants to do that, so that's why we're taking the pains to make sure that we do the best we can with it.
And I'm not sure we need to do a whole audit every year. I mean, I think you're capable of, you know, with your staff, Carl, coming to us and saying, hey, great news, you know, the cost of these pipes have gone down 20% or whatever, you know, so yeah, maybe we can tweak this a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we need a whole rate study or an audit. I think that between Ms. Alves and yourself, I mean, you all are integral, obviously, to decisions we make. So just presenting us with where we are number-wise, like we had during the workshops, highlighting each department, I think is sufficient.
Yeah, and you do sort of get that update because we'll be, later this year, as part of the budget process, we'll be coming to you with our 5-year CIP, it actually includes the entire budget. So you see our 5-year budget later this year as part of the budget process, and that happens annually. So you'll be able to see that full breakdown of all the various components and pieces of our stormwater budget.
Okay, and before we get to the end of this, I'm going to ask city manager that, let's say, 6 months from now, if that's an appropriate time, you'll decide, you'll extend an invitation to each city council member to, if they choose at their pleasure, to meet with Stormwater to find out where we're at, if anything has changed, if they have a brief meeting.
Just to reiterate what you asked, Mayor, 6 months timeline to just extend an invitation?
Yep.
Okay.
If you feel 6 months, what I'm saying is extend that invitation to each city council member. So at their pleasure, they can get an update directly from Stormwater under your supervision and understand, hey, things are exactly as we had said they are, or they're this way, or hopefully that way. Okay?
Okay, so just to recap, what I'm hearing is there's consensus, and Mayor, you've accepted this, there's consensus by the City Council to continue this matter to an upcoming workshop to include language that addresses the concerns that each of you have outlined today. Yes?
You have, Councilman.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not part of that consensus, but there's consensus, you're correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Did you want to speak to it again?
No, it's fruitless.
Okay.
That's good. I understand.
All right. So that's what we'll do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We move next to item number 10, which is a resolution approving City Council Strategic Action Plan.
This is a resolution for the City Council Strategic Action Plan for fiscal year 2023-2024. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, approving City Council priorities for fiscal year 2023-2024, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for implementing actions, and providing for an effective date.
Assistant City Manager Johnston, if you would proceed with your presentation.
Sure, Mayor. Thank you. I do not have a presentation for you. Located in your agenda packet was Exhibit A, which is all of your consensus on your priorities that we've spoken about at your 2 previous workshops. Vice Mayor did add the language for incentives and economic development. And I just heard a few more things, but they were all in your agenda packet.
Good. I would encourage each city council member to take advantage of one-on-ones that are still available, and I think actually city manager will, put out, if not already, invitations to make sure that, you are able to digest all of this information, because this strategic action plan is the blueprint for the future of the city. So if there are questions, if we miss something, if you're not on board with something, you'll speak it up at those one-on-ones so that it gets back here to the dais and the public, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate that. What direction are you looking for today?
Adoption of your priorities, Mayor, and then our next steps would be at your June 27th workshop.
Okay.
We will come to you with your budget breakdown for those priorities.
All right. I'll go ahead and pass the gavel to Vice Mayor. I'll make the motion to accept the priorities as presented in the package
Do we need
today.
to do public comment first?
I'm sorry?
I don't know.
You're exactly right. So before that, I will open up this item for public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on the strategic action plan, strategic action plan adoption? And I'm also going to ask, just so we're clear, council to read that into the record for us officially.
For the strategic action plan,
Yeah.
I did.
Did you read it in already?
the title.
Okay, good. So is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public comment section. I will pass
Take the gavel.
Okay, and I will make the motion to approve the strategic action plan with the changes that were in our package today.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
We have a second from Councilwoman Pontieri. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. You can have your gavel back.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
We now move to item number 11, and Councilor, if you would read that in for us.
Yes, this is a resolution concerning a utilities extension project. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, approving the terms and conditions of an interlocal agreement with Radiance Community Development District for design and construction of utilities extension, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute said agreement, providing for future amendments, providing for design and bidding, phase expenses and project contingency, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for implementing actions, and providing for an effective date.
Gentlemen, a heavy topic. Please proceed.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Glad to be here tonight to present this item. This PowerPoint is not in your packet. We wanted to share the history and our steps moving forward through this PowerPoint to you tonight. We are here today to present the next steps for approval in the process of the agreement between the City of Palm Coast and the FGUA. The City and the FGUA entered into an interlocal agreement, whereas the City would provide bulk water and wastewater services to the FGUA south of 100 in the South Old Kings Road area of the FGUA service area. The history of the area. In the early 2000s, the City and Flagler County were in a conflict over territorial area service rights regarding water and sewer. Both parties wanted to service the area's water and sewer needs. By 2007, the City and County agreed to what is now known as the Settlement Agreement for Service Territories. The county would service the most southerly portion of Old Kings Road. Within the agreement, the city was to install a water main to provide bulk water to the county. Around 2017-18, the county considers offering the service territory to the city as the county attempts to get out of the utility business in the area. City did not accept the proposal of the system at that time. County then transfers ownership of their service area and facilities to the FGUA. FGUA asked to start talks up with the city based on the mutual beneficial bulk services agreement. City responds that it is a willing party to consider a beneficial agreement. After months of negotiations between the city and FGUA, the proposed agreement is approved by both parties. This map shows the area affected by the improvements that would be made in the area south of of SR 100, mostly along South Old Kings Road. For reference, at the top of the map, it shows SR 100 running east to west. Old Kings Road is shown running top to bottom of the map, which is north to south. The future development of the Bulow Creek area is shown in the brown coloration. The yellow, orange, and gray areas are within the FGUA service area. The green line separates the proposed service area modifications as well as the city limits.
Steve, can I just stop real quick and add in? So the service area boundary has now been established because the county has agreed to this boundary. We have a letter of agreement for them establishing it. So this is an established boundary now as per the interlocal that we have with FGUA.
The main routing of the water main and force main extensions that would service the area are shown here. The water main would connect in at 100 and Sesame Boulevard and extend down to the FGUA service area. The sewer force main would connect at SR 100 and run along mostly Old Kings Road to the FGUA service area. A master pump station would be built within the FGUA service area to pump wastewater to the city system proposed in red currently. These engineer estimates are from June 2022. Basically, the city would fund the improvements that are built within the city limits, and the FGUA would fund those improvements within the FGUA service area. The costs would be refined as the design efforts move forward. The city costs have been incorporated into our 5-year city utility capital plan. Some of the project benefits for the city are, one, by reducing or eliminating the small package treatment plants in the FGUA service area, the parties would be able to reduce wastewater effluent discharges into the outstanding waters of the Bulow Creek. Two, city, county, and FGUA would continue to work together in cooperative fashion for the betterment of the community as a whole. The city receives the service territory right for the properties that were annexed into the city after the settlement agreement was signed. 4, the city receives the property for a future wastewater treatment site within the agreement. The bulk treatment agreement has been fully executed. Possible design bid project or design build joint plan was reviewed and determined. It appears that we will be going with the traditional design bid and construction method utilizing the proposed Radiant CDD to manage the design, permitting, and ultimate construction of the project. Radiance has a vested interest in the project being built timely because they are the largest property owner in the FGUA service area. Confirming funding as the project design and construction costs are refined and determined. And we will finalize the agreement, allowing the city manager to negotiate and execute the final terms of the agreement with the Radiance Community Development District to move forward with the design, permitting, and bidding services. We're here for any questions.
So,
Mayor,
yeah.
can I just add before you ask some questions, because maybe that will work it out. So when this came before you last time, the ILA, there was with FGUA, there was a provision that allowed for the city to be able to transfer, design, build, construction to another local government entity, such as the CDD. So we were approached by Radiant CDD, the city was, and said, we'd like to build this quicker, under the same terms you have with FGUA, which we're already required to do under that agreement with FGUA. So what this interlocal agreement does effectively is transfer over the city's responsibilities under the FGUA agreement as it pertains to design and construction of the utility extension. All the other portions of the ILA, as far as bulk water service and a future plant site, change of ownership, of the city obtaining that plant site in the future, that all remains within the city's purview to do. This is just strictly transferring the ability to construct the utility line extension and the lift station, the master lift station that's proposed, to the Radiance CDD for them to do it under the same terms and conditions. Now, we've added additional terms in here as far as how the city's going to oversee the project. We've also added a requirement that the city's a third-party beneficiary to any construction, to the construction contract that comes out of this, so that we have rights under that contract to ensure that we're covered. And there's a number of items that are a condition precedent to moving forward for construction. One of them is obtaining all the necessary easements for the utility extension that are outside the existing right-of-way, and the other one is that FGUA has to be able to fund their portion, and their portion is going to be funded by, and I'm not going to speak for them, but it's going to be, a portion of properties in that area, through whatever funding agreements they have with individual property owners. So that's just kind of a holistic how we got here view. Mayor, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. Good. Thank you. I appreciate that update. So based on the land ownership, is the county also making a similar ILA regarding the FGUA, or the boundaries don't necessitate that? Because where I'm going with this is, my real question is, it's my understanding, having done some homework on this, that we had an opportunity back in time to take over all of this, and in your business and our business, economies of scale are everything. So if it's a bigger project, we fare better. And I don't really understand, I'm not sure how important it is, why we decided not to do it then, but is the county also grabbing a piece like we are?
The county has, transferred all of its rights to its utility system to FGUA.
Right, I know
So
that.
FGUA effectively is standing in for the county and will
Okay,
be the
all right,
ones that
all
is procuring that portion that was on the slide.
So we're stuck with their ability to operate. I don't have any data on how well they've done. It seems to me that are they on a timeline that you expected? And well, let me ask you a better question. Let's don't get too deep into this. Are you confident that FGUA has the ability to move your projects forward according to the timeline that the city needs?
FGUA really won't be the one moving the project forward, Mayor. It would be Radiance and the city working together. The city will be reviewing the plans as they move forward at 30, 60, and 90% design. We will be fully involved with Radiance as they manage the design portion of the project, and then assuming that we, as the city, determine that we want to move forward in the construction project the same way.
Okay.
Radiance and the city would work hand in hand.
So I don't have to be concerned about FGUA, it's what we want to do with the other. Fine, you've answered my question.
Concern, as the councilor spoke, would be FGUA's funding, for the most part, from me. They have to come to the table and commit their dollars to the plan for the plan to work in totality.
When does that begin to happen?
We're going to, the agreement stipulates that there are stopping points that allows both the city and FGUA, so I don't want to paint it just as FGUA, because the city can decide it doesn't want to move forward as well, or it doesn't
So
have
what,
the funding.
just help me with this with FGUA, and I'm sorry I struggle with it. What is their incentive with regard to keeping to a timeline that we like? What is their incentive?
Their incentive is they're being pushed by the property owners within their service area. Those property owners want to develop property. They cannot develop property the way the FGUA system
I got that, but
operates.
they're a quasi-governmental agency, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So they sing sometimes to a different tune in terms of their initiatives and their timelines. I mean, we've seen that so far. It's this project been a little slow in coming for some time. You feel that they're up to speed now?
They want to move forward.
Okay.
I truly believe that, yes.
I'll accept your expertise on that, so that answers my questions. Anybody else? Sorry to belabor that. Okay. So
We also have representatives from the Radiant CDD here, too, if you have any questions for them.
I don't, and I'm sorry, folks. I mean, if there's something that you feel that has not been covered, that you feel is crucial to our decision-making, I would certainly invite you forward, but I'm getting a feel from City Council that we understand where we're at. So with that, I think I would open up this item for public comment. If there's any member of the public that would like to step forward and speak on this issue, please come forward now. And seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. I'll come back to the dais for any additional discussion. Are there any questions?
Go ahead and make a motion.
So I have a motion from the Vice Mayor to approve the interlocal agreement.
Yes, it's a two-part. It's the interlocal agreement, and then it's on the side, the city
Right.
expenses for
So
design.
can we do it all in one motion? So Vice Mayor, can you kind of state that you're making a motion regarding, on your screen?
On your screen.
Oh,
There you go.
okay, I'm making a motion for approval to finalize and execute this interlocal agreement.
Very good. Now,
And for the city expenses for design.
And approval of the city expenses for design.
thank you, Vice Mayor. Is there a second on the City Council?
Second.
Okay, Councilperson Pontieri has second. Is there any additional discussion?
I'm just happy that we're going to be doing something good for the environment here, right?
So with that said, let's go with a roll call vote.
Sure. Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder?
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus?
Affirmative.
Councilmember Pontieri?
Yes.
Mayor Alfin?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
And I appreciate your patience and your visiting tonight. We'll move now to item number 11, which is a resolution, no, I'm sorry.
This is the consent agenda.
I'm sorry, I didn't cross that up. Let's change the page. Let's go to our consent agenda. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on the consent agenda at this time? Seeing no one approach the podium, I'll close public comment, and I will ask City Council if there's no discussion on any items.
I'll make the motion.
I would like to pull the
never mind.
sorry, Vice
Okay.
Mayor. I would like to pull the PNS paving contract from the consent agenda for further discussion.
Okay, so let's, what we do now is, can I accept a motion for the remaining two consent items? So
I'll
Vice
make
Mayor?
a motion for
So
the
I have a
remaining
vote, I have a
two.
motion from the Vice Mayor to approve the other two, what numbers are they?
12 and 13.
12 and 13. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second from Councilman Clufus. Is there any additional discussion on those consent items? Hearing no discussion, I'll go with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Does the clerk have the count?
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Can we now move to discussion on the pulled item? Councilperson Pontieri.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a $7 million contract, which was immediately one reason why I wanted to pull it from the consent agenda. I have spoken to our city manager regarding just making sure that things like this are not placed on the consent agenda in the future. I think it's appropriate that we have further discussion when we're looking at this high dollar amount. And city manager has agreed that that would be appropriate. I also spoke with Mr. Cody yesterday specifically regarding this contract. My concern is that, you know, we got a 5-year projection plan for addressing paving from Mr. Cody last week, I believe, or the week before during a workshop. We now have, from Transmap, a pretty good idea of what roads have certain PSIs, what roads are failing, what roads really need immediate attention. But what we have not looked at is how we can address our roads using global solutions like Cape Seal and microsurfacing. We've gone directly to milling and surfacing, which is incredibly more expensive. Right now, Bunnell has piggybacked a contract out of Sumter County where they are able to microsurface a lot of their roads. They've done it previously, I think back in 2015, and those roads are still in fantastic shape. Flagler Beach did this as well. Polk County is now the beacon, really, of microsurfacing, and they've had a lot of success. Osceola County is the fastest growing county in the state. They've also had success recently with microsurfacing. So I think before we approve contracts like this, specifically for our neighborhood roads, we need to look at the option of microsurfacing and Cape Seal, which microsurfacing is roughly 45 to 50% of the cost of milling, and Cape Seal is about 60% of the cost of milling and resurfacing. So especially as we're looking at our residents' tax dollars, we need to look at other global solutions for fixing our roads rather than just going to milling and surfacing. So that's why I've asked to pull this contract, look at the specific roads that are in this scope of work, see if we can address them with microsurfacing and Cape Seal prior to approving this, specifically with the neighborhood roads, which I believe are about $1 million of this contract, and then revisit it.
Okay. Help me with your point, well spoken. It was my understanding that Mr. Cody talked to us about his lack of confidence in the long-term durability of those procedures, and that in fact you would end up paying the same amount as it changed. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Can you revisit the comments that you made the last time we discussed this?
It would, you know, our analysis, you know, based on projected timelines, your per year cost would be the same. So your microsealing is 45% of the cost. Well, it only has 45% of the life of milling and resurfacing. So you're basically spending the same dollars per year on the roadway.
So I understand.
For a less
So to
quality
the councilperson's point, does this push the cost
down the road?
Some of the cost forward? So you're getting a temporary relief in the tax liability for the short term, but it's going to cost the same at the end of the period.
Correct.
So, Carl, just got a question. Just a question.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, just so I can, because I don't want to stop there. You had a different thought, I think, than what I just said, and I don't want to over talk your point, because relooking at options for an incredibly large number, I think, is correct. So, is there a part of what we just said that's different, or that you're thinking differently about?
Well, I think it's a more robust stance. So my concern, and especially, and I also think that we share this concern as well, when we looked at that curve last week of how quickly our roads can deteriorate,
Yep.
they are going to go down quickly and at a larger amount over the next 5 years. But if we engage in this process, and I specifically spoke with our staff yesterday on this, if we engage in this process of microsurfacing, we can address more roads quicker and a little bit cheaper so that we can prevent this quick downturn of deterioration. Now, I understand that 60% of the cost gets you 60% of the result, but if we can fix a lot of our roads for 12, 15 years, which is what we can get out of microsurfacing, especially with the cost of materials right now, it's something to consider and look at more closely. And specifically, I would like to see the contractors come and present to us that are being used by Benel from the contract that they piggybacked out of Sumter County. I think that would be prudent of us.
So, and let me ask Carl, because with your experience, so these kind of contractors, do they offer guarantees in terms of a timeline?
No, there's no guarantee on these types of products. We've met with these vendors. We've gone and seen other communities.
You've given
this is a viable option. But it. Okay, so Benel and Flagler Beach has done this, Ormond Beach has done this, there are entities that do this, but if you have roads that have cracks in them, you're going to put this on, and within 2 years, those cracks are going to come through. Yes, it's going to be black, it's going to look good, but where you have turning movement in the pavement, because you're covering the road with a slurry, and it's not fixing the problem, you're coating the problem. So you're getting a temporary fix, but it's not a structural fix. There are benefits to it because, one, the sun affects the roadway, the cracks, the water getting into the roadway, are detrimental. So there are benefits to doing this, and you are able to cover a lot of roadways. But there are pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
Our thought process, because we have a lot of infill lots, one thing that you'll notice when we observe this, roads that have cul-de-sacs, the bigger trucks go to the end and they're backing up back and forth, and you'll see chunks of this seal coating have removed and come off because when the truck tires turn on the movement, they're freeing that top coat of that microseal. So it's one of the solutions. There's probably 10 different solutions out there in global treatments. It's just a matter of, people's expectations are, we're not milling and resurfacing your road. You're getting, a Band-Aid fix, that's going to buy you some time.
Okay. So certainly with the magnitude of this expense, would it make sense for, one question, so if you do it all the way you had it planned, if you did less, let's say, what was it, 7 million?
We have
what was your number in the presentation?
It's like 7 million. We have a bid, and most of those roads are arterial.
Okay, no. But if, for example, if we wanted to do a hybrid, so we added some of it, and you reduced the part that you're presenting to 5 million, because you're buying less of the material, does that make the cost of the material more?
Well, in this particular bid, our base bid was our arterial roadways. And then we had 2 add alternates for residential roadways. So we could award the contract on the base bid for arterial roadways for milling and resurfacing. And some of those residential roads we had, they're already too far gone for some of these global treatments. We'd have to revisit some of those. But that is something, we could go in and pursue and look at alternative treatment methods moving forward and put together a long-range plan looking at global treatments.
But does it increase? I mean, are we, cutting off our nose to spite our face?
Not on this contract, because we have a base bid. So it won't change the base bid amount.
Okay,
If
so-
we just award the base bid.
Based on your desire to pull this item, and I agree because of the magnitude, does City Council want to receive some presentation on some alternative techniques in probably looking at a hybrid, which might accelerate the process, and I can't tell you whether or not it saves us
I would
money.
love to see
I don't know.
presentation and maybe
Councilperson,
a few of these vendors in here to give us a demonstration and, you know, try to sell us
Now-
on their products, and we can take it apart.
and is that something, City Manager, just to help me here, is that something that we should do at City Council, or do you want to try to educate me or each of City Council members sort of one-on-ones? I don't know, what makes sense? What do you think?
Well, first of all, we'll look at our calendars
Yeah.
and better understand the timing of where this comes into the budget process, Carl.
Right.
Note about long-term approach. I think that's really what we're talking about here.
So you all want to do it together here in City
I
Council?
think doing it together gives us the opportunity not just to educate ourselves
Yeah, okay.
and ask questions, but to educate the public.
Once again, I remember when they came in with the LiDAR. What was the name of the company that came in with the LiDAR analysis?
Transmat.
And then they had, I remember the software that they loaded it all into. What was that called? The city something or other? Do you remember the GIS software that they would load it into? Something that would give the expected lifetimes of the years. But they gave a presentation which outlined the different, because we had the same questions about remilling and hot milling and all those things in the wet slurry years ago when we were talking about, when we actually contracted for the LiDAR analysis. So I think revisiting that would be great, but I remember the results of when they came and presented to us. It's basically, long-term versus short-term, exactly what Carl said. I would recommend that we don't have a company that is promoting the wet slur come in here and try to sell us on wet slur. And that's why I thought it was fair for the LiDAR company to be telling us what was going on as far as expected lifetimes and what they saw in degradation as far as these results in the past. Because if you have someone who's selling you a wet slur, they're going to come in here and tell you you're going to want to do a slur everywhere. But long-term, basically, we were told that it was going to cost less money if we went with the full repaving, because at that point, we were talking about doing remilling on surfaces and things like that as well. But I think that'd be a good exercise. I would just warn that we make sure that someone's impartial who's coming in here to tell us their expertise.
I agree with that. I think that we really need to look at the data. So we know from Transmap's report, Councilman Clufus, to your point, what our PSIs are for the roads. So we can very easily look at, what are the results if we go this route, this more global solution on this road versus another road. But something of this magnitude, and then I think, like I said, looking down the road, getting another presentation so that we're not looking at other ways to tax our residents, especially looking at the stormwater utility rates going up, just a way to relieve this, especially over the next 10 years.
Flying cars would help too, Carl.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
So not the flying cars.
Carl, does that give you sufficient direction from City Council to come back to us as the city manager works on our budget agendas going forward?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Very good. City manager, any question?
Just for clarity, that doesn't void this bid process, right? What we're doing, saying that we want to be educated, isn't going to void the bids that we have received, would it?
If we're going to modify the methods of, because the bid that you have before you, the contract is for milling and resurfacing.
So you're talking about does it expire? I think that's what you're asking.
It does expire. They're only required to hold the bid for so many number of days.
Yeah.
And then we
90
have
days.
90 days.
Where are we at right now?
So city manager, that's a tough one, I get it, because I don't think any of us are willing, without knowing more, to sacrifice a bid, because I guarantee you, if it expires, it's going to change.
Right. And some of these roads, we know Matanzas, we're already rebuilding base. Nothing but resurfacing is going to work on Matanzas. We have many arterial roads where there's segments that are very poor condition. So we have no choice but milling and resurfacing on a lot of the arterial segments that are in before you today. The residential roads, so we do have some bad ones in there. Those are in the gray area. We'd have to look at how poorly they are, what global treatments we may or may not be able to use on those. But my recommendation would be to move forward with the contract as the base bid, not award alternate one in residential, and then it gives us time before next year's budget over the summer to work with local agencies, Transmap, other independent parties, get a real detailed explanation on what's worked, what's not worked from some of these other government entities, and then come make a presentation and educate, council on the various global treatments that are out there, the pros and cons of each, and then maybe have some remarks from what we learned from some of the other municipalities.
Do you know off the top of your head, Carl, and you may not, I don't expect you to, but just by chance, what the PSI on the roads and the scope of work are? I know Matanzas Woods is bad. That's a non-starter, right? We know that needs to be milled and resurfaced, but
So
the other one.
PSI is it's not consistent throughout the community.
Right.
I understand, but there's certain
we did
roads
put
that are
together
in
a little graph.
work.
So if we, just trying to get it legible here for you. So the green is the base bid, which is our arterial. And so Belterra ranges from a 65 to 81, because they do segments, intersection to intersection. And even in that, and these are from 18 months ago, so we know the numbers have dropped slightly from these. And there could be lower numbers in that area. There could be some higher numbers because it averages them out between intersections. But you can see East Hampton is 45 down to 70, up to 75, 65 to 80, 54 to 81, and 47 to 75. So those are the ranges. You can see that the low ones basically go from a 47 up to a 65. And there's probably areas that are worse than that, I'm sure, because you saw some of those Matanzas pictures, but on the average, from intersection to intersection, that's what it turned out to be.
And from the high-level presentation that I remember from years ago, essentially, some of these processes were much better suited for roads that were in the higher range to kind of keep them in that higher range, right? It's not really for like...
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it was a better investment if you had really good roads that you could keep them at really high quality for a number of reseals. And then I remember basically we were told that once you get into these bottom level, because you can't do much of that around shoulders, right? Especially around these arterial roads, because like that'll fall off and just basically break back off.
So, City Manager, we're talking about a very narrow window here. I get it. Is there a way to satisfy City Council on some level of knowledge on these other treatments so that we can get to Councilperson Pontieri comment?
I just had a question. When does the 90 days expire? Do we know that? The bid?
When in the agenda packet, it probably has the bid tabulation.
I can look through
the
it.
bid
4/19/2023 they were due.
Bids are due 4/19?
Yeah.
So it would be 9 days from that date.
I kind of worry about it too because...
So it's July,
the
right?
Following two bids, one was pretty close, but the other one was like an extra
So we're talking
$1
about July?
Well, yeah, I mean...
We have to award it and be under contract by that date.
Right.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
What's that?
We'd have to award it and be under contract by that date.
By that date, okay. I can't answer the question in terms of administrative timeline if it's doable.
Well, Mayor, I'll tie this into the conversation that as days pass, that cost goes up.
Right.
So with these base bid items, these are areas we get complaints on.
Right.
And they're sensitive to moving forward. So bringing back a comprehensive long-term plan by the time the 90 days are up, it will be a challenge.
Okay, so let's try something else here for a minute. Can we?
I might be able to simplify. If I can make a motion to approve the contract without the Alt-1 roads, that would cut the cost down to $6 million, and then we could readdress whether or not these Alt-1 roads could be fixed with these other global solutions. Is that something that council would be?
And we could just roll that money to next year's budget, and we would make a larger bid. We'd probably get better savings anyways if we combine it with next year's budget.
Okay, so there's a motion. Hold up, but before the motion, I think I have to go out to the public on this. So, that's okay. That gives you a chance to rethink those words and say them again. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this item regarding the contract at this time? And seeing no one approach the podium, I will close public comment, come back to the dais for any additional discussion. I just have one point of discussion, if I may. City Manager, if necessary, please schedule us a special workshop, which would be something to catch items like this at the appropriate time if we're going to need it. If we have to add another one in, so that, because there may be another item in the next meeting or the next meeting, so some kind of a catch-all workshop if City Council deems that's necessary. Just keep it as a thought. And then, Councilperson Pontieri, if you would be so kind as to offer up that motion again.
Did you have something?
No, I was going to second the motion the way you
Hold on,
opened it up.
So the motion is to approve the contract for the base bid roads only and not the bid alt 1 roads.
And I will second that.
So I have a second. Is there any other discussion by City Council at this time? Obviously, we're going to be thinking about the next part of this that we are not approving this evening and how we'll go forward, but it's not something we can just, that this is not a can that's getting kicked down the road. This is something that's got to get addressed in this budget session. And I'm looking for a shake from everybody's head that we will take the time to address that. So, good. Okay. So with that, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed?
Motion passes 5-0.
Clerk has the count. Thank you. Carl, thank you. We now move to item J on our agenda, which would be the final public participation of the evening. Are there any members of the public that would like to address me at City Council at this time? Seeing no one approach the podium, I will close this section of public participation, and I will ask City Council members, are there any matters that were not on the agenda this evening that you would like to raise at this time?
Yes, I got one.
I just wanted to thank the two remaining people that were here from our Citizens Academy that I think we scared off.
Super graduates, tell you what, exactly right.
But they stuck it out a long time.
They did, I know,
They did.
99%. Yeah.
Councilman Clufus, please.
So I just had one question because I know it's going to come up. And Chief Berryhill, if you could just give us a rundown on what happened on Colbert Drive today. I know, and if you can't, totally get that. But I know I've already been approached by some of the Citizens Academy members. I think they were concerned about the burns. I don't know whether they're controlled burns or not occurring with high wind speed. Just so I have some talking points to prepare me.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Chief Berryhill, Palm Coast Fire Department. Today on Colbert Lane, we had, there's an area that's being developed there, a development that's going in, and as they were clearing, they had approval through the Florida Forest Service to do some burning of the piles. In the afternoon, the winds really kicked up a little more than we expected, and we're not the licensing agency, we're not allowed, that's a power that's reserved for the state through the Florida Forest Service for those types of things. And anyways, those burns got a little bit outside of their burn pile, and we did have some stuff get into the wood line there. No residents were affected or were in danger. Obviously, when there's smoke in there, residents were affected. We had crews there till 8:30. I was a little late tonight because I was there for a second. But my understanding is that everything is contained within the Florida Forest Service's lines. And then when that does happen, we really want everything in those lines to burn, because if not, it'll just keep kind of popping back up on a windy day. Gotcha. So that's kind of the goal, was to burn out inside of those lines, not the trees, but the underbrush, the shrubbery, those kind of things. So that's the deal. We'll be out monitoring tomorrow and over the next few days until we're sure that it's redundantly safe.
Awesome. Thank you very much for this.
And do you smell smoky tonight?
I think Chief of Staff DiLorenzo would say yes.
Very good. City Council members, any other comments? I just have one. I want to shout out to city staff again. There was a small business expo that was held just this past weekend. The turnout was phenomenal. I don't know the exact count, but literally every small business in our community had some turnout, and the public had a chance to meet the folks that deliver the services. But none of that happens without city staff spending their weekend time helping to set it up and break it down. So when we talk about being business friendly, we are showing support. This is an annual event, that will show up and is extremely important to the community. So I just want to thank city staff and each of your folks that were involved with that. That's all I have. I would ask city council, do you have any
There
final
was
comments?
130 small businesses
130,
there.
that's incredible.
And I want to thank our staff for
Yep.
doing a great job, and also our chamber. And I spent like the whole afternoon walking
Perfect.
through there. It was great.
Wonderful, good.
Yeah.
Councilor, any final comments?
Oh, I have nothing.
And city manager?
I have one, Mayor, thank you. Workshop scheduled for next week on the 9th had a very light agenda. Actually, it was really hinged on some applicants for some open positions on boards and committees. And based on the results today, I don't see really a need to have that workshop. So I'm going to cancel the 9th workshop for City Council.
We'll take it. Thank you. Very well done. So with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that
I have a
motion.
motion, I have a second. We are adjourned. Thank you.